It's a bright Tuesday morning. Welcome to the AM show. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Let's start off with civil society organizations who are calling on government to make efforts to settle capitation grant arrears as many schools are struggling to run. According to the organizations, the delay in disbursement is affecting quality teaching and education. There's more in the following report.
As part of effort to meet goal number 4 of the SDGs, the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition wants government to address gaps in the education sector. Speaking at the 2022 Global Action Week on Education, the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Kwame Dagbando, called on the sector ministry and the Ministry of Finance to release the grants to schools.
The current state of affairs within our education purview has even been discussed this morning nationwide. It's more importantly tilted towards free SHS. And everybody is crying that we don't have the resource, yet we are pushing a lot there to achieve. We are not on a political platform. We are only sharing our thoughts to the discourse that is available and going forward, because education is our priority. And we therefore call on government, Madam Chairperson, that since 2019, this is the most pathetic one, which breaks some of us down. The capitation grants has been in arrears. We wish that the Ministry of Education speaks up in trying to release the capitation grants that have been in arrears for a very long time.
He further urged them to release cost of living allowances. According to him, the recent inflation rate of 23.6% announced by the government statistician has eroded the long negotiated 7% salary increase for the public sector workers.
As we speak today, our inflation has hit 23.6%, and this is the highest in 18 years. This is evidence, this is data gotten right from the ground. This has actually eroded what we teacher unions went to negotiate in a few years past, 4 against 7%. And we also want to take this opportunity today as we celebrate the Global Action Week, that the teacher unions together with organized labor are saying that the long negotiated 7% has been eroded. And therefore, we are calling on government to reorganize, if not cut down their budget, their expenditure, to quickly adhere to the clarion call by organized labor, together with what the teacher unions are also calling on.
The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, however, says the organization is committed to using social dialogue to encourage the ministry and its agencies to attend to the grievances of teachers. Mawusi Numos report for JoyNews.
Elsewhere, ambulance workers in the country are also asking government to provide them police escorts. Their request follows recent attacks on some of the personnel. President of the Emergency Medical Technologists Association of Ghana, Michael Ghani, says his members are worried because 13 of them have been attacked, with one of them passing through the process.
Following the Zebila District Ambulance Office attack on May 11th this year, the Emergency Medical Technologists Association of Ghana, MTAG, is seeking that the government provides police escort in their line of duty. At a press briefing here in Accra, the group said about 13 attacks have been reported, but authorities have expressed little seriousness towards the matter. Michael Ghani is the president of the association.
The very recent attack on our hardworking colleagues, EMTs, of the Zebila District Ambulance Office crew, who were transporting a patient from Presbyterian Hospital, Boku, to Tamale Teaching Hospital on the 11th of this May. There are about 13 documented incident attacks to date. In this instance, we lost one precious life. We suggest for a policy initiative to ensure a collaboration between the National Ambulance Service and the Ghana Police Service to provide police escort for ambulances.
The group also appeals for the approval of its proposed risk allowance and full disclosure of a patient's medical issues as it discusses the dangers of the job.
We therefore want to appeal to all health facilities to be fair with us about patients' conditions and disclose every bit of information to us. The approval of the proposed risk allowance for EMT.
Deputy General Secretary of the Health Services Workers Union, Patricia Cheneboa, called for investigations into the incident and for perpetrators to be brought to book.
We are also, by this statement, calling on the government to investigate the matter to bring the culprits to book.
Some workers also talked about the difficulties they face while trying to save lives.
How we felt about it is very bad. Sometimes when we are on 9 duties, and they even dispatch, we are scared to go.
Quite recently, my team experienced one in Dodua, where my team was dispatched to Dodua Hospital to transport a patient who was in a respiratory arrest.
Like few minutes after we get in there, the woman passed on. The families of the woman just attacked the ambulance.
The association is further making an appeal to the general public to cease attacks on its members. Efwa Aprekuwa Boafo's report read to you.
Now, board chairman of the John Evans Atamios Memorial Heritage, Alex Segbefia, says there will be a nationwide lectures to mark the 10th anniversary of the death of the former president. He tells JoyNews these lectures will inculcate the values and principles that he stood for in the Guinean society. Here is Simon Bura's report.
The John Evans Atamios Memorial Heritage was birthed and incorporated on 14th October 2021 as a company limited by guarantee. It is a non-profit, apolitical, independent and charitable organization. It exists to promote President John Evans Atamios' unique view of society to cause positive actions in strengthening democratic values and human development. Chairman of the Board of Directors of the John Evans Atamios Memorial Heritage, Alex Segbefia, tells JoyNews after a press conference to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the demise of the former president that the John Evans Atamios Memorial Heritage is embarking on regional lectures to inculcate the values and principles that he stood for in the Ghanaian society.
We want to make sure that we inculcate into our Ghanaian society the values and principles that Professor John Evans Atamios stood for. And one of the ways in doing this is to have lectures of this nature. People tend to forget very quickly when you don't talk about something. So we think that is important, and we thank those who have been holding lectures in the past on an annual basis. However, this is the 10th anniversary, and therefore we took the view that we should have lectures across all the regions. We divided them into clusters.
On his part, former ambassador to Zimbabwe, Silvanus Tamaklo, extolled the virtues of former President Professor Evans Atamios, describing him as a unifier and a leader who stood for the interest of the citizenry. He urged current leaders to emulate his all-inclusive approach to governance.
The man Atamios had a vision for Ghana. The vision was to depoliticize a very political system. And he made sure he set up committees to look at businesses that had issues, businesses of minority party members. He made sure people were not affected by this political system that is so entrenched.
But Member of Parliament for the Diodio constituency, Neil Lante van der Poel, is unhappy that the leadership style of former President Evans Atamios has not transcended successive governments and called on leaders to use the 10th anniversary to reflect on his values and his objectives to cause a change.
It's sad because I thought that just the little that Professor Mills showed within that period should be indicative of the fact that leadership is about caring. It's sad that today we don't have any leadership of caring. People don't care. People don't feel for the ordinary Ghanaian. People are just thinking about themselves. Leadership has become more capricious and more, let me say, profligate. Professor Mills talked against profligacy. He talked against capricious leadership. He talked against corruption. He talks about family, friends. He mentioned all the things that go to lead to failure of leadership in this country.
The Tamale lecture, The Great Launch, which is the title of the proceedings of the launch of the John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Heritage, held on 1st February 2022, has been compiled into a book and will be launched and put up for sale to the public soon. Samuel Mbura reporting for JoyNews.
Now, a national organizer hopeful of the new patriotic party, Eric Chum, believes the NPP cannot continue to apportion certain seats as the preserve of the National Democratic Congress and allowed them to dominate. He said the party has mentally imposed such limitations on themselves, causing the party to continue to lose such seats. He opines his election as national organizer will stem the tide. More in Martina Bugri's report.
Speaking at the launch of his campaign in Tamale, Eric Chum said it was surprising that the NPP continues to say the northern region is a pro-NDC region.
One of the things that I'm amazed about is when we come to the northern region, and it's almost as if that we have dashed some of the seats to the NDC. That's the reality. That's what I sense, that we have done some of the seats to the end. It's almost as if that we go into an election and we have no desire or hope to win those seats. As national organizer, with the help of the other national executives, we will ensure that that mindset is changed. We can win some of these seats. We have won some of these seats before, and we have the men here within the northern region to annex those seats for us. We have the name MPP. But the original MPP is the Northern People's Party. And the sacrifices that the people up here, SK Dombo and the like, were able to sacrifice so that we will have a tradition that we are all proud of today, means that it's imperative that we recognize the people of the North. And as national organizer, I will not be an Accra organizer, but I'll be an organizer that will make sure that we have footprints everywhere in the country.
Mr. Chum said he believes with proper plans and results-oriented strategies put in place, no seat is impossible to annex in the northern region. He raised concerns over how past party executives are treated.
When someone is an ex-executive, a former executive, either police station chairman, secretary, constituency chairman, former council of elder, patron, and all that, it just looks as if that the party forgets them. They have no role to play anymore. And all these individuals, apart from the institutional memory, are people that we can use at a grassroots level to annex forces. Now, the party has to have a strategy to ensure that these people are still providing the support. We are giving them the leverage and the platform to express their views at what happens at the constituency level, the police station level, so that we can go ahead and annex all the potential that we have to win the election. I propose as one of the major policy initiatives to ensure that all these persons are co-opted into a bigger council of elders at the constituency level, at the regional level, and even at the national level.
Mr. Chum highlighted some of the policies he would implement when voted into power.
Our policies are targeted at the whole, at galvanizing the base of the party through effective rebranding and repositioning, to effect the wishes and the firm desires of our founding fathers and the faithful patrons of the great elephant NPP, which is total development of both the individual and the party.
Deputy Director of Health in the Bono East region is urging the public to regularly check their BP following the increasing number of hypertensive cases recorded over the past year. In an interview with Anas Sabet's Dr. Alina Agozo notes that the region recorded a total of 21,790 cases in 2021, an increase of more than 3,000 cases as recorded in 2020. She describes the situation as alarming. More in this report as we mark the World Hypertension Day today.
High blood pressure is called silent killer not without a reason. Most often, There are no noticeable signs of hypertension, and even if you have symptoms, you may immediately act upon it, dismissing it as routine tiredness or work pressure. With over 1.1 billion people suffering from hypertension across the globe, we take a look at the situation across the Bono East region. Mrs. Helena Gozo is the Deputy Director Clinical Care at the Regional Health Directorate.
Currently, hypertension is one of the very difficult situations in the region. In fact, as a country at large, but the region also, we are having a lot of numbers as we speak. I can refer and see in 2020, we had a total of 18,293 cases for the region at large. But 2021, we have 21,790 cases. I must say that these are only the reported cases. You and I know that a lot of people don't come to the hospital. So these are just a few of the people that we have.
She recounts how people go about walking around with the ailment without giving attention to it, and adds that the older age groups are more prone to hypertension as compared to the younger ones.
It's a very difficult issue. And people are walking about with high blood pressure without knowing it, because the disease does not present any symptom. You know, you think you are fine. You're just walking about probably with a few headaches here and there, and then they think they are okay, never goes to check. When it comes to age groups, I must say that it affects all age groups, from age 1 to the highest you can think of. But the higher or the older you get, the more prone you become to hypertension. So it means that older people are getting the disease more than the younger ages.
Mrs. Helena Gozo was, however, quick to caution the public against certain lifestyles and eating habits that leads to hypertension.
Hypertension is even more common in the urban areas like Techiman, Kintampo and Kranza and so on, because we are leading a very stressful life. You are in a hurry, you need a lot of money, so you are doing so many things at the same time without going to check whether everything is all right with you or not. So these are some of the things. We don't do exercises, people drink, people smoke a lot, all these things are causes. And the way we eat, some of our eating habits are also a problem.
As the world marked the World Hypertension Day today, Mrs. Helena Gozo called on the people to regularly visit the various wellness clinics around to have their BPs checked as a means of aiding in its early detection and treatment.
It's becoming a canker. It's becoming a very big problem in our society. And so the earlier and also going for screenings, just walk to any facility. Now, all our facilities, we are trying to introduce what we call the wellness clinic. That means that you can always walk to any hospital and have your BP checked, so that early detection is the key. Once it's caught early, then we can quickly take measures to help you with life change modifications, and then if you need medication, you start taking the medication.
Anna Sabit, JoyNews, Kintampo.
Now, the Volta region is poised to plant 1 million trees as part of this year's Green Ghana project, which targets the planting of 20 million trees nationwide. The Forestry Commission in the region has already nursed about 750,000 seedlings, exceeding its 500,000 target for the Green Ghana Day slated for 10 June 2022. Fred Kwame accompanied the Forestry Commission's Chief Executive Officer, John Alote, on a tour of the region and filed the following report.
As part of the Reforestation program, President Akufo-Addo introduced the Green Ghana Day in 2021, where an estimated 7 million tree seedlings were planted. The project, however, targets the planting of 20 million tree seedlings nationwide in 2022. Given this, the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, John Alote, embarked on a day's tour of the Volta region to assess the level of preparedness and mobilize stakeholders to participate in the Green Ghana project. He paid a courtesy call to the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha.
We are here this morning on the Green Ghana project, which is to happen on the 10th of June this year. And the target for this year is 20 million. That means that we need to prepare more ground for planting, raise more seedlings, plant stakes, and in line with the theme for this year's planting, mobilizing for greener Ghana, means that we need to mobilize the citizens and all the people staying in Ghana to support this project for it to be successful like last year.
I mean, it's a very important initiative, good for our environment, good for our economy, and all of us must come on board so that we can plant at least 1 million trees. Eh?
Yes.
A million. Let's try target million. We have 500,000 as target. If you target million, you get to 700,000. Is it not good?
Yeah. Mr. Aluti also visited the Avatime traditional area, where he implored traditional authorities to use their influence to urge citizens to support the Green Ghana project. The team visited sites in Ho, Denu, and Togakope, where trees and fruit seedlings are being nested. He expressed satisfaction at the level of preparedness.
Looking at the seedlings we have almost 50% more than what is required to meet the seedlings target for Volta region. One of the key challenges we identified last year was the management of the seedlings, especially in the avenues and islands on the streets, where most of the time the Forestry Commission is focusing on the forest areas. So this year we've engaged the parks and gardens, so that areas like on the street side of the streets, they have been able to recommend the kind of seedlings, that kind of species that they want to be planted in those avenues, and then they have produced some in terms of taking care of those seedlings in the avenues and in the cities, the main roads that they are going to handle.
The Green Ghana project is aimed at restoring the country's depleting forests and inculcating the habit of planting and nursing trees into the citizenry. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News.
That's all on the news. Many thanks for your company. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. The show continues with Benjamin and Benes.
Well, a very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us up to this point. We're kickstarting the news review. We'll get into the papers shortly, and I'll also be telling you about our guest, Mr. Kojo Poku, joins us shortly for us to have a very good discussion on what topical matters the papers raise this morning. But are you ready for utility tariff hikes? That's the question. Are you ready? And are they justified? That's one of the crucial issues we're investigating or interrogating this morning. So don't you forget to share your thoughts with us via the hashtag #AMShow. But let's start now with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let me check on Mr. Poku. Mr. Kojo Poku, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for making the time to join us this morning.
Well, the show is supposed to be Ben and Ben. Where is Ben?
Well, Bern will be joining us when we hit the big stories. That's where she always comes in. She likes big stories, and she'll be joining us from there.
So it's Ben and Ben, big stories.
Yes. Bern and Ben, big stories. Is that to say you have missed Bern and not missed Ben, which is why you are posing these questions?
No, I was used to seeing Ben's pretty face every morning. Then they now introduce a much prettier face. So now it's becoming a problem just seeing my Ben without the Ben.
No worries. You'll be seeing her shortly. Just stay tuned. So let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. There are some not extraneous matters, but I'll be running them by you shortly after we get into the papers. Support graphic tertiary business sends challenge education. Minister urges the public. And then GetFund tackles stalled projects, 1,044 to be completed in 3 years. Let's get into that. The 1,044 Ghana Education Trust Fund uncompleted projects dotted across the country will be completed under a 3-year phased-out program. The uncompleted projects are made up of 544 basic school-level infrastructure, 2 technical and vocational and training centers, that is TVETs, 9 model schools, 487 bits of infrastructure at the second cycle school level. Now, just to give some background to all of these developments, the GetFund administrator explained that on March 17 this year, the fund sought approval from its board of trustees for a 3-year phased-out project completion plan, which was granted. And so only time will tell how far this will go and whether we're going to be able to deal with all 1,044 uncompleted projects. 1,044.
Ben, yes, should I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes I don't know what they take us for. You've sat there for all these years and you've not done the project, and you're going to do 1,000 projects in 3 years. How is that possible? I don't know if it's the same person that was there before or that is still there. I don't know if there was a change at GetFund, but I think it's the same person who was there from 2017. So if you have 1,044 projects that you've not done in 5 years, how are you going to do them in 3 years? With what money? With what the labor capacity? Certain things that we put on ourselves is just not possible to achieve. And somebody will sit there and say that and nobody will interrogate it. If you tell me that you can achieve these projects in 3 years, why have you not done them in the last 5 years? That's unfortunate, but I'm sorry. This is just porkies.
Let me also say a very good morning to Liz Hayfron Asari, media consultant. Liz, good morning to you. All right, so we'll hear from Liz shortly, but a quick one. Take a quick stab at this before we connect with Liz as well. Terrorism threat, let's be vigilant. That's in the middle spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper. And the National Peace Council has called on the people to be conscious of the threats posed by violent extremists by being more vigilant in their communities and at gatherings. It said as the government was dealing with the situation, the citizenry too needed to lend their support by looking out for and reporting suspicious characters to the security agency. So this is a conversation I started yesterday, but maybe I'll take you back to Sunday, where my colleague MFR Pau spoke to Deputy Defense Minister, and he said, well, things are not well. All is not well. And we do not know whether the center will hold if, God forbid, any of these insurgents spilled over into Ghana. Churches, mosques, religious groupings have been told to be on high alert. Interacting with Dr. Bona yesterday, I asked him, should the state give guidelines? He said, yes, we don't have that yet. Imminent threat. Look at our malls and other places of, gathering. And what happens? Your quick take, Kojo.
Well, let me even start by saying that the first place that we should be very careful is the Kotoka International Airport, Terminal 3.
Right.
Anybody can enter the terminal. Anyone can enter the terminal with bags, with luggage, with anything, and there's no screening. In all international airports, before your luggage enters the terminal, it is screened. In Terminal 3, it is not. And I think the management should start that immediately. That's not something that is a joke. If you are going to let everybody enter the terminal into the check-in area, I don't have a problem with that. But every luggage entering the terminal should be scanned. And we don't screen our luggages entering the terminal. I don't know any international airport today that you can take a luggage into the terminal area and it's not screened. So everybody can just come out of a car, hold the luggage, accompany somebody, and the person can flash any passport or document or ID, and the person is let through, and their luggage is not screened. So for me, that is the first thing we need to tackle, our international airport, because we've always known that these people have loved those areas. Then secondly, like you said, when people come into the country, they always need accomplices. They always need people to move them around. So taxi drivers, when you go to the UK, most of the taxi drivers are agents of the state. In most countries, taxi drivers are agents of the state. They gather intelligence. And the minute you move around, they start picking up some of these movements and they try to report them. So the taxi drivers, the trotro drivers, the neighbors, the people renting, the hoteliers, all these people should be on high alert. It's about time we start training some of these tourism sites and institutions to watch out for some of these people who come in and train them. Like I said on your show last week, the best show or the best form of security is not the visible security, it's the invisible security. When security is invincible, that is when you know that it's at its best. When you have a show of force where people are carrying guns all over the place, for me, that is not the best security. So I think the security agencies should do their part, and rightfully so, the citizenry, we should do our part as well.
When it comes to education, what would you like to see on that front when it comes to educating people? Because I always say that since we do not have that experience of terrorist attacks, unlike the Burkina Fasos and the Malis and the rest, we also lack that consciousness, if you like, in our communities, even along the border lines. What more should we be doing in terms of educating our population about what to see or what to take notice of and how to react?
Well, Ghana, I think we are too welcoming. It's a plus for tourism and it's a minus for some of these things. We are too welcoming. Look, every visitor, I think we are the only country I know that visitors integrate so quickly. Okay, so somebody comes in 2-3 days, he has more friends than me and you. I think what we should do is should be more inquisitive. We should interrogate more suspicious of foreigners. There's nothing wrong of being suspicious of foreigners. Okay, because he came in, you don't know what he came to do. So we should be, in this time of the world, we should be suspicious of everybody. So I don't think we have homegrown terrorism, which would have been a problem, because then somebody you know so well, who is your neighbor, could one day turn out to be a terrorist. I don't think we have that in Ghana yet. If we're going to have any search, it's going to have to come from outside. So it means somebody who we don't know, somebody who we don't know around the neighborhood, somebody who is not Ghanaian is going to come in and try and do something like this. That is why we should be very, very careful and suspicious of people. So the education will have to start from this platform like this, radio stations. Instead of talking about politics all the time, we should take time out and talk about educating the public on what to look out for, suspicious activities, people who come in and start moving around from point A to point B, trying to go to the same place often and often, going with people. They should be the people that we should look out for. Good thing is that we have a good number of cameras around the country. Are they being monitored? Are those cameras just there for their sake, or there are people who are actively monitoring these cameras? So we need to educate through the media, because it looks to be the platform that everybody is on these days, and also on social media for the youth to also understand that they need to be suspicious of people. There's nothing wrong with being suspicious.
Let me bring in Liz. Liz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Right. Just because we were teasing out the issues on this terrorist threat to Ghana, what is your quick take on that? We're told that it's knocking on our very doors. The last attack that came through in the sub-region was somewhat 5 kilometers away from our borders. What's your reaction?
Yes, and I think that it's very scary at the moment, and we need to be on high alert, like the Deputy Minister said yesterday. I believe that steps need to be taken to ensure that our borders first are secure. And like Kojo said, there should be a lot of screening, not only at the airports, even at the borders. I mean, you travel, you're coming back, you just walk in, and nobody seems to go through your luggage, go through whatever you're holding. Let me say that maybe sometimes they think that they know who you are, but I believe that everybody should be screened. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what position you hold. It must be screened. Our luggages must be screened, and everybody must be on high alert. Unfortunately, I don't agree with Kojo when he says that everybody should be suspicious. You can suspect everybody, especially foreigners. You can keep them at arm's length. But when you do so, then you keep them on their guard. When you're hospitable and you open up to them, the show will open up to you. So then you get to know more about them than if you're suspicious and keep them at arm's length. We can be very welcoming and yet interrogate people who have come in to know them and to know them well and to know what they've come to do. So I believe that we should be able to balance the two. Make sure that the people that are coming in, we are looking at intensely, but again, we are using our skill of hospitality to get to know them in depth, so that whatever they're coming to do, once you get to know who it is, you would be able to probably help the security agencies. If you keep them at arm's length and they're closed, then you probably would never get to know them and get to know what they're coming to do. But again, like Ojo said, I get angry when I see the security forces walking the streets with guns. And I ask, who are the guns for? For us, the citizens, or for people they're not seeing? And I want to take my mind back to when Rawlings was head of state and he went to a function. You hardly saw the security personnel, I mean the detailed ones, the intelligence agents who were around. You hardly saw them because they mixed with the people. So you wouldn't know unless somebody pointed out the person to you because they knew the person.
Right.
And that is the kind of security we want. We want the security that is not seen, but that makes you feel safe. Currently walking the streets, you're not safe. You see policemen with guns, you see army officers with guns, and you still don't feel safe. But in those days, you did not see anybody around, but you knew that if anybody should attack you, there'll be somebody who would see and come to your aid. And that's the kind of security we want. We want people to feel safe, and our safety must come first. Again, like he said, and I have complained about the airports, traveling, you're just walking. The first encounter with your luggage is when you're weighing it. And when you weigh it, that's when it goes through the screen and then it goes onto the carrier to go under the aircraft. Nobody asks you anything. Nobody says anything. Everybody walks into the airport. In the past, it didn't used to be like that. If you were not traveling, if you didn't have your passport, if you didn't have your ticket,
right,
you wouldn't enter the airport. Right now, everybody enters the airport, and I wonder why.
And that is a big problem because as I was interacting yesterday with Dr. Bona, he said he simulated on his own a time at one of our malls, no need to mention the name, he didn't even mention it, left, call it a backpack somewhere, moved, came back, and no one had reacted, no suspicion. So if this were some sort of, pack bomb or something of the sort, who knows what could have happened? And at our airports...
So then you ask, what kind of security do we have at all the places where a lot of people converge?
And especially in our setup where you have, of course, I can understand there's the physical presence aspect of security where you show that, look, don't try this because we are onto you. But there's also that subtle element. And sometimes you see national security operatives and walkie-talkie and barging around and all of that. Is that what is supposed to happen?
Ben, let me tell you a quick story. And Ben, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
About a month ago, right? I have gone through security, gone through screening, and in Terminal 3, I went left. Then I went to sit at the gate, and I'm like, okay, I needed credit. So they said, I should go right to another one of the gates where the shops are. So I started walking right to go to where the shops to get credit. Then a lady sits at the desk and called me over. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming to you. If you want to talk to me, come over. Because the desk was seated somewhere and I don't know who they were. So I'm like, look, I'm not going to walk to you. You sit there and call me. So she now walks up to me and said, national security. I'm like, what? You are national security and this is where you are sitting? And she said, well, come to my desk. I'm like, I'm not coming to your desk because I've already come in, gone to the gate. It's only when I wanted to buy credit that I came this way. If you are national security, you should be seated at a very advantageous point to see everybody who is screening or who is being screened. Then she now went into this thing with me and now said, okay, can I have a look at your passport? When I gave her my passport, she now went to the desk and sat down as if that she sees my passport. The national security and the narcotics and all these people are at the airport not doing what they're supposed to do. They're intimidating people. And that's the unfortunate part of it.
Well, national security. We are secure indeed, aren't we?
I'm surprised that the national security would even walk up to him and identify herself.
That's the whole point.
Exactly. If you were national security, you should know whoever is walking in the airport. You should be able to pick up whoever is walking in the airport, and you should have a screen that will make you pick people that you really need to go to.
Right.
I mean,
it's hilarious, isn't it? But of course, we ought to up our game, because this is no joke when you look at what has happened in the sub-region. And unfortunately, Kojo, though you say that there have been no people who have been indoctrinated in our part of the world, remember that incident. I don't want to mention the name of the institution, but a tertiary level, student, and what had happened years back. It is not something we can take for granted at all. But let's quickly delve into these two issues in the daily graphic, and we'll wrap from there. You can share them among yourselves, whichever one you want to take. I suspect Kojo will go for the first one. No kerosene shortage. TOR assures the public, but users complain of scarcity. And of course, the communications manager of the MPA, Mohammed Abdul Kudus, has been telling the Daily Graphic in an interview that there is enough kerosene to fuel the aviation industry for the next 4 weeks. And he says there is no shortage of kerosene. But industry players, per the story, those who use kerosene a lot are saying, no, that is not the case. We are feeling the pinch. In the meantime, we also know that there are going to be fuel price increments soon, imminent, and it's going to be on kerosene, diesel, and petrol. The second issue, school children go without meals as caterers strike. And these caterers have been calling for more money to cook better food for the children. 97 pesos, that's what is used to cook for one student or pupil. And they are calling for at least 3 Ghana cedis. Over to you, Liz and Kojo. Liz, I'll start with you. Which one will you pick?
I'll pick the school children, and I'm lost for words when it comes to how we treat our children. We keep saying that they need to be fed in school. If we're feeding them, feed them well. It's better to give them a good meal so that they'll be able to study and study well, so that they'll be able to grow and grow properly, than giving them half-baked cake. I mean, 97 pesos. Even if you go out to buy a bowl of cake, is 1 cedi and 50 pesos for a bowl. And there's no fish with that. So then you begin to ask, how do the caterers cope? And no wonder when you see the food, you question why the food is the way it is. I think that we should put our money where our mouth is. If we want to grow children and groom them well, let us do it and do it properly. We all know that 97 pesos does not put a meal on anybody's table. So if they're asking for increments, and I believe that caterers do a lot to help. When you buy in bulk, you save a lot more money. When you go to the market and prices increase daily, I mean, you are at a loss for words. So I wonder how they cope if they're not buying farm produce at the farm gate. If they're going to the market, then I'm worried about what we are feeding our children. We should be careful. And I believe that we should go beyond just thinking of giving them one meal a day. I keep saying that when my grandchildren come from school and they have lunch, I insist that they sleep.
Right.
Because if you read wide, it will tell you that children between certain ages need about 12 hours of sleep. We don't do that to the children. They load them with so much homework that when they come home, they have very little time to sleep. If your parents are both working, then it means that you're waking the children up early to get to school. And so we should be careful the way we are bringing up our children. If we want to invest in them, we should invest in them properly. And so I also agree that they should up the amount of money that they're giving to the caterers. And who is monitoring what the caterers are cooking for their children?
Right. So interesting developments there. The caterers are also calling for unpaid sums owed them to be paid up. But for you, Kojo, I suspect you go for the kerosene shortage, alleged kerosene shortage story.
Well, yeah. You said that TOR, somebody went to TOR and asked TOR, and TOR said that there will be no...
So the Daily Graphic had an interaction with the communications manager.
Why did anybody talk to TOR? TOR doesn't do anything, so why are you talking to them? How would they know there's shortage or no shortage? So I'm surprised anybody is going to TOR. I mean, when it comes to kerosene, TOR doesn't import kerosene. They don't refine anything at all for the last year and a half. So Tor will not have a clue what's going on in the industry.
So it's the NPA. The NPA has been interacting with the Daily Graphic, but of course, Tor has been assuring the public that there is no shortage, or there will be no shortage.
But why would Tor assure anybody? It's like Tor doesn't do anything to assure anybody. So I'm surprised why Tor can assure you. Kerosene is imported. We don't refine anything in this country in the last 1.5 years. So that's my point is I don't understand how anybody is going to Tor for Tor to assure me, because you don't have any.
The point, Kojo, is that they are saying there is enough in stock. And so if there's any shortage, it is artificial. That's the end where Tor comes in.
Well, honestly, my point is, look, Tor cannot assure any of us. The point is there are shortages of diesel and kerosene in the system. These things where people try to spin what is not and what it is. The bottom line is if I go and I don't get it, a shortage. I mean, why are you spinning it? The diesel shortage is worldwide. It's not only Ghana. And that's why diesel prices are quite high now. Diesel prices should not be as high as it is, but it's high because there is a few amount of diesel in circulation around the world. So there are some shortages here and there. In terms of kerosene, yes, there is in Nigeria and even in Kumasi, they don't have fuel. In terms of the airlines, always have to fuel in Accra before they land in Kumasi. When you run dry in Kumasi, you can't reload in Kumasi because there's no aviation fuel in Kumasi. So the point I'm making is that we need to be upfront and center with the people on some of these things. So we now are educated and aware. For you to come and tell me there's nothing of such, and I go and I don't find it, who are you kidding, myself or you?
Yeah, good questions to digest there. A quick look at the graphic business. Number crunch, 24.7%. That's inflation for imported items increased from 17.3% in March to 24.7% in April. And we've heard Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta talk a lot in recent times about imported inflation. Well, this phenomenon is the first in over 2 years. And according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, Ukraine war is squeezing food supplies and driving up prices. But let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Major Mahama murder case. AG closes case against 14 accused. And the AG's department yesterday closed its case against 14 persons being prosecuted for the alleged murder of the late Major Maxwell Mahama at Dentraboise in the central region. That story is there. There's also this one, very interesting one. Court remands alleged girlfriend killer. And the district court in Cape Coast has remanded the boyfriend of Nanama Clark, 24, who was found dead at the roadside of Ola Estate near the Ola College of Education, Cape Coast, into police custody. The court, presided over by Mrs. Bernice Akom, adjourned the case to May 31. The plea of Nicholas Atobronk-Taylor, the boyfriend, was not taken when the case was called in court, but he was charged with the offense of murder. Now, in case you've missed all of it, this is a breakdown. The police arrested the accused following the murder of Nanama Clark, who was a level 300 student of the Cape Coast Technical University. The body was found by some residents who informed the police about the tragic event. And according to the police, the student was found lying naked with her private part cut off and with bruises on the body. Liz, I'll start with you. Your quick reactions to these stories.
With the student, I hope that the investigations will go on properly. The boyfriend must be picked up, especially if he was with her.
He has been picked up. He's been remanded, actually.
Okay, so then I believe that there's not much we can say until they have done proper investigations and tried him. And if there are any accomplices, we will get to know, because normally you realize that when there are murders, it's not done by one person. He must have somebody to help him. And then you wonder why the private part was taken. Was it for ritual purposes? If it was, then who did that? Is it the boy? So I think that with these things, we should wait for proper investigations to be done. My worry is that sometimes investigations take so long and you wonder what the security personnel are doing, because it takes a very long time for them to come up with investigations and findings, and it drags on and on and on and on. I think that if there are people who are devoted or dedicated to the case, then they need to work fast and work quickly and give us justice. Serving justice will give closure to the family of the girl who has passed. And if nothing is done and if it keeps dragging, then they keep worrying about all kinds of things, because if you don't get closure, it can cause a lot of problems for you, because going on, you find it difficult to move on when you should be able to move on. So let's hope that the security agencies are on this case and would work quickly. Again, I keep asking, when you hear murders in the universities, again, it goes back to safety and security. How safe, how secure are universities? How is it that somebody in level 300 can just be murdered and dropped by the roadside? So there's still a lot of questions to be answered. And in the past, there used to be a lot of security in the universities. They are not there anymore. Even in our secondary schools, there's hardly any university. When I was in Wesley Girls, we never locked their doors. Now when you go to the school, the girls have to lock their doors, because if they don't, you come back from classes and half your stuff is gone.
Well, let's get into some other stories. Kojo, I know you may have a take, but let me sneak in this bit, and then you can add your take from that previous story. The final newspaper now. Payment of taxes is mark of patriotism. That's according to the GRA. Bank of Ghana's approach can't tame inflation. That's according to the IEA. And the minister declares Bulgarian embassy land no-go area, if you recall what happened there. But how about this? Floods kill 510 in 6 years. Floods kill 510 in 6 years. Auditor General makes shocking findings about our drainage system. Now, this story makes for very curious reading. And it has revealed that flooding in Ghana has killed 510 people and injured 309 others between 2015 and 2020. That is even till 2020. We're not counting 2021 and 2022. Kojo?
Well, I think I would take a bite at the tax that the GRA is saying that tax makes you a more patriot. Look, try cooperating or try on your own to try and be tax compliant and see the frustration you go through.
I thought with the Ghana.gov platform and the seamlessness, the integration and everything, things had become much simpler. Digitization, right?
How is that? You look, what the basic and the fundamental thing that GRA has not been able to do. And I wonder why, after all this talk, GRA today is not computerized. It's amazing. GRA is not computerized. Look, if everybody is being asked to take this TIN number, and we all have this TIN number, what is the point of the TIN number if you are not computerized? Now, let me give you why I say this. I had a file at Legon. Now, for some reason, they do a reorganization of the various classes of taxpayers, and they moved me to Medina.
Okay.
Now, I go to the Medina office to try and bring my file up to speed. And the kind of problems I'm having with the Medina office, you have no idea. Just because they don't have anything on the computer, they are just dealing basically with what is on the file. And unfortunately for me, the Legon office did not move all the file. They just moved the name. So now I'm having to go to Legon myself to try and look for a file to bring it to Medina. And the question I'm asking myself is why? So it's a bit unfortunate that, if you are an upright citizen or you want to be an upright citizen and just take their word for it that paying taxes make you a patriot. Anybody who wants to do that today, engage DRA and see the frustrations you go through. It's unbelievable. So for me, if companies like the banks, I can go to Wale Wale and pay money into my GCB bank and I come to Accra and that money reflects. Why is it that if I have a withholding tax paid in Wale Wale and I come to Accra to file my taxes, Accra will tell me that go to Wale Wale and bring the withholding tax receipt. If not, I can't give you credit for the tax withholding tax. It's crazy.
Right. Let's get into some...
So practical problems we are facing as businessmen, and nobody wants to deal with that. You go there and they treat you as if, GRA now thinks they are some sort of law enforcement officer. The way they talk to you, you are not. Please.
Well, I see you're very passionate about that situation. And of course, as we're being told that little trickles of taxes will help, make our country a mighty one, a great one. Of course, the system ought to be more, facilitate better the taking or raking in of taxes.
No, the system should be customer friendly, so people will feel okay to go there. I mean, the fact that there's customs and customs is added to GRA and the GRA officers, they talk to you as if they are law enforcement officers.
Right.
When you go to the tax office, they talk as if you are under interrogation or you are under arrest or something. I mean, it's amazing.
Let's get into the BNFT. And e-levy bites MTN as share price falls 18.9%, drags rest of the market down with it. E-levy bites MTN as share price falls 18.9%. There's also public boards lose 850 million Ghana cedis to procurement regulations. And maybe just to wrap with this bit, it has to do with the latest incident. I mean, there have been incidents in Akachi, incidents in Boku, other parts of the country. We heard of the Ejura situation sometime last year. And now it is in Koranza, where a 24-year-old man, maybe falsely or allegedly accused of armed robbery, has been killed, and the police cannot account for it. Let me leave it that way. So a lot of allegations going round. We've heard from the MP for the area, among others. But another suspicious incident where a citizen dies and the police cannot give us what exactly happened, or at least we do not know, we're not certain how things panned out. Kojo and Liz, this will be my final bit to you. I'm sure you followed that story. What is your take?
I think
we
Liz
can start.
All
right, go ahead, Kojo. I'll wrap up with Liz.
Okay. Look, let me go with the MTN story. MTN shares cannot go down because of e-levy. MTN is just a rubbish cellular company. Simple. Look,
it is just a what?
It's just a rubbish cellular company.
Kojo, I don't know whether I heard the R word correctly, but please, you can't refer to them as such.
But you asked me to repeat it, so let me take it.
No. I just wanted to be, please rather retract. Please retract if you can.
MTN is a bad cellular company.
We have a number of cellular entities. You can't single out MTN for this kind of treatment.
The reason why their shares went down. You are telling me that their shares went down because of e-levy. I'm telling you, their shares can't go down because of e-levy. MTN is not a money collecting company.
Right. So that point is different from referring to them as bad and all of that. I beg of you, please retract and apologize.
Let me withdraw that. Okay, let me withdraw that.
Right.
MTN is not giving the service to Ghanaians that they're licensed to give to Ghanaians. So let me withdraw that. MTN is not providing the service they are licensed to give to Ghanaians. MTN is licensed to give cellular and data. The Momo money thing that now, when you go to an MTN service center, only 2 desks does the cellular customer service and 10 desks does Momo accounts. It's not what they're supposed to do. And I think the regulators should split the company so that we have 2 separate companies, one concentrating on what they're licensed for, which is cellular and data, voice and data. Look, our communication sector is bad, my brother. We don't. Anytime we talk about energy, I said that, can we spend some time and talk about communication? We don't. Try making a phone call. Try sending text messages on WhatsApp and see what you can get. It's amazing. I tried to call the customer service person at NCA and complain about how bad our network systems are. She blocked me. Please.
Interesting times indeed. We do have all our problems, but it would be unfair to single out MTN as though they were the worst in this spectrum. We don't have any proof. We don't have any details of that. No, Kojo, this is not for you. This is just my disclaimer. And so we dissociate ourselves from these comments. It is not reflective of our content or what we stand for. And all due apologies to MTN for some of those. But just to wrap the conversation, back to you, Liz. What is your take as we wrap up with this Nkoranza killing?
Yes, and I was saying that sometimes you question the police because of certain things that happen under their watch. We are made to understand that the police picked this guy up. So how come he has ended up dead? I thought that when they picked him up, it would be for his protection and for their investigations. So how come he ended up dead? There is a question that the police should answer.
Right.
And this keeps recurring, and therefore people do not trust the police. And therefore, when you hear the other side of the story, you are bound to believe the other side of the story, because the people say that this is a young, promising guy who is hardworking, who has been doing all kinds of things. And so you query. And then you hear other stories about him witnessing some untoward things that police had been involved in, and probably that's why they picked him up, and that's why now he's dead, so he won't be a witness and all that. I think that the police should be on top of their game. They are law enforcing agency, yes, but they are meant to protect the citizenry, not to kill them. And so the police should be up and doing. They should be doing their job and doing it well. And them spinning all kinds of stories every time they're wrong-footed doesn't go well for them. It makes people very weary of the police. So instead of the police being friendly and citizens being able to go up to the police, everybody holds back and sits and watches the police and what they do. Right. And I think that it's not a good thing for the police name. The police need to up their game, and therefore IGP needs to be on this case and make sure that we don't keep losing our relatives because they're in police custody.
Right. And it's a concern we all have. But I'd like to say a very big thank you to both of you. Just to wrap, Liz, a comment came on our Facebook live stream. Moholo Oma Kwesi, who says, Liz, good to see you. I don't know whether you know this person, but the person says, good to see you. And that's how we wrap.
Oh, nobody said good to see me?
You remember when we started and you said you wanted to see Bernice, and you see, what goes around comes around. And that's just on the lighter side. Thank you so much.
But it's only because people haven't seen me in a long time.
Oh, okay. Ben, stop calling me for a while.
Liz, thank you so much for joining. Liz Hayfanasari is a media consultant. Kojo Poku, thank you for joining. Energy analyst. They joined us for our news review. Up next, sports.
If you've ever thought the Ghana Football Association cannot bite its members, well, you were all getting it wrong, because the Ghana Football Association have demoted arguably one of the historic members of this association to Division 2 following alleged match fixing against an opponent in the Ghana Premier League, and that opponent is Interlife. They have also been demoted to Division 2, and the GFA in a statement revealed that the clubs were engaged in match fixing, and this is what the Ghana Footballers Association released as its evidence, saying the prosecution revealed that before the match was played between 12th of July 2021 and 19th July 2021, Dr. Kweku Frimpong, who is the president of Ashanti Gold, called one Emmanuel Niamoa, whom the GFA described as a volunteer of Inter Allies, and that he had promised to give him 10,000 Ghana cedis so that he will sort out the playing body of Inter Allies. And he also indicated that during the discussions, he wanted to achieve a correct score line of 5-1. Those are some of the things the Ghana Football Association have assembled as their evidence. So the president of the club has been banned for 10 years. He's also been fined 100,000 Ghana cedis by the Ghana Football Association. The club has also been fined 100,000 Ghana cedis. The chief executive officer, Emmanuel Frimpong, has also been fined
50,000 Ghana cedis for his role in that. The clubs will file their appeal at 9 a.m. today because per the regulations of the Ghana Football Association, they're supposed to do so within 24 hours. This is the one for Inter Allies where their head coach, Felix Aboagye, has been suspended. And these players, Mohamed Zakari, Richard Akwa, Shaibi Tawfik, and Felix Abuska, they've all been suspended for 24 months. That is 2 months. Some players have been suspended for 30 months, notably Kumasi Asante Kotokos, Richmond Lamte. However, Joy Sports have uncovered something in relation to the evidence gathered by the Ghana Football Association, and we bring that to you now as we understand that the GFA had claimed that in their engagement with FIFA to produce to them a match manipulation system, the Sports Radar system, which is a Swiss company, claimed that there's going to be a perfect score of 5-1. However, this is what Joy Sports has found out. Per our investigation, it says that on the 8th of August 2021, FIFA sent the integrity officer a fraud detection system that had said that, which is run by Sports Radar and monitors betting-related match manipulation in football and other sport disciplines. According to the match intelligence summary of the match, there was a strong pre-match betting in the hour prior to kickoff for at least 3 goals to be scored and not 5-1. As reported by the Ghana Football Association. And they said the report also stated the fact that none of Ashanti Goals FC's last 6 home matches and none of Interlice FC's last away matches has witnessed more than 2 goals. So it was quite interesting for the Ghana Football Association to state in their ruling that there was going to be a perfect score of 5-1. And they said the summary stated that both teams made 5 changes from the previous matches which they played, although the report did not state that what caused the pre-match betting pickup by the system. The match intelligence summary also raised concerns about how the 2nd goal and the 4th goal was considered, and also commented on how the 3rd, 5th, and 2 own goals was also considered. The summary of the match incidents confirmed Sports Radar indication of the match being allegedly fixed or manipulated. The background checks and other intelligence indicated suspicious live betting involving matches played by Ashanti Gold, and also stated reports before and after the match, which has been already stated. And there is a second one, which is quite interesting from the Ghana Football Association, because the Niamwa gentleman who submitted his evidence to the GFA said that he made available, there were payments that were made to him, but when he was asked to produce details, this is what Joy Sports has found out. The investigative team invited Emmanuel Niamwa for the 3rd time, and this is to be put in record by Joy Sports. He gave 3 separate names of himself. First, he introduced himself as Nigogo. Second, he introduced himself as Niamwa. And third, he introduced himself as Emmanuel Niamwa. 3 separate names for one gentleman. And they said that before the interrogation commenced, Niamwa submitted a printed document which indicated a WhatsApp conversation between Emmanuel Primfong, the Chief Executive Officer of Ashanti Gold, and Niamwa on 25th of August 2021. And this was clearly after investigations in relation to this matter had already commenced, because it commenced in July. The messages indicate Emmanuel Frimpong attempts to know the progress of the investigation. Emmanuel Niamwa stated that Emmanuel Frimpong informed him about the match being fixed for betting purposes, and also stated that Dr. Kweku Frimpong confirmed that he wants the match to end 5-1 in favor of Ashanti Gold. He made some statements that Emmanuel Frimpong had sent him on WhatsApp. A betting slip that indicated Emmanuel Frimpong taking a bet on the said match. The investigation team requested that we inspect his phone to assist investigation. He stated that all text messages and WhatsApp messages surprisingly disappeared from his phone. So how was he able to print these, as claimed by the Ghana Football Association? During the interrogation, Niamwa was asked about the text conversation between himself and Emmanuel Frimpong on the match day, which he indicated that all text conversations were around the match. He said that all text messages between himself and Emmanuel Frimpong during the match has also disappeared from his phone. Those are some of the things Joy Sports have uncovered. And unfortunately, Emmanuel Frimpong, per our sources, was not given an opportunity to defend himself on this matter. And Interestingly, they are going to file an appeal at 9 a.m. Interallies are also going to do so. Now, let's hear from an executive committee member of the Ghana Football Association, the person of Samuel Enim Ado, who says that match fixing is a canker that has found its way into the very fiber of Ghana football and is hurting the product.
Bad for everybody. It's bad, and especially those indulging it. One day when they are caught, it will really help because they are really trying to destroy our game. And well, it's about ethics. It's about rules. Just follow the rules. If you are in the game, don't do it. So it's very bad that those in the game are trying to do it. Very, very, very uncalled for. And I pray that one day they will be arrested. And if there's somebody is also saying that there's even no law in Ghana that makes it criminals. Let's see. Maybe somebody will try to find a way out, because if it's not criminal, the other ways that needs to be dealt with because it's not good for the game.
Now let's go to Ashanti Gold, where the supporters of the clubs has accused management of mismanaging the club. They claim, having won the Ghana Premier League in 2015, they expected Dr. Kweku Frimpong and his son Emmanuel Frimpong to take the club to the next level. However, they have brought it back to its knees, where it is going to be demoted to Division 2. Shots from Ashanti Gold that were captured by Love FM's Dalali Atiase, who was there. The club had to bring in security men to ensure that there was sanity around the secretariat of the club, because the supporters had invaded the place and expressed their disappointment with the decision of the president and his son to be allegedly involved in match fixing, and that has led to Ashanti Gold being demoted to Division 1. Let's hear from some of the supporters who were spoken to by Mr. Nonya, who is a correspondent for Adum FM.
And of course, so and on the match, no, I go PMO. I have 7-1, and it goes at a PMO. And I'm penphobi. I did 2 that say a quiet goes, no, a fabaya, on goes, Munukra, a TB PMO, no, Antiasia, and I'm also, I'm a penphone, say, Guaqueman, Yachi Asgod Timono, a free premier, at the PMO, our Division 2. You do stadium, I'm not a baby, I'm a PMO, or my book, and I'm a PMO, someone can say a big crop at the issue. And a binum at the PMO, and someone who can and he said, a choir, as someone a fast obano, one more antiasia, to the kind, one more champion, Casse, of any team, Emra, one more hour, and a bill, I'm going to go Ashanti, to make you not a team, no, I'm going to go dear. A choir bang and almost a fast one, almost a premier team, our boss, who share a year, Betty here. Aha, ane secretariat no. Ye bedru ya boy omodin sanka, ye ne mpanimfo wa ha ne bi nso ebedi nkomo. Nemo ye bedru ano office ahodo wa ha, chief executive no office yatum. PRO office nso yatum, ana reception nyina nso mpanimfo atum e wa ha. Oba bedru ha. Pani bia eni ha, security man ene nipa makumienu bi pe ene wa ha. Ene mrantie no nso ababebo dompem e wa ha. Wo mo nso te, omo ntia se to ma behwe se de asie no eye nokre ana. Yene mrantie ni bi eni nkomo na yemisa mrantie se. Meeting ade Isaac K Namenyom Adom TV.
Penyufo na edi team ne momo no enya ade a ya fi se bia on betima ye team no na de omo pe no se ye si bet ni nkika wonya ma ekoso Ghana League mu e bi na abeka ye hu nti ye ba ne se ye sere ye mpenyufo sa asem na ye kan so omo wa na moto a on betima atu ne ye na ye team ni se na tie na on beji ye no edi ekoye no omunye ni sa amfanto o ma oboasema na say ambassador and the company no you know mo obi kapa awoto angle good company team no omo na you know mo obi kapa
stadium we yene ya bo stadium no ho ban fitin kulaba ma be sinde team we hunti menya problems wo me school mu team we hunti me dwane from boarding house no ma be house good match ya ba mo suspension good 3 months or house good hunti na say ende ye nyina bedru say wa bra SNK dia ho ode support team no na be bia bedru we na as God relegation brother in division 2 Division 2. Why you see Ghana a division leg, you know? No, but here, the Bay, and ever free Division 2, I will do Premier League. It is a job and a ham. My store, my jam shop. And a mananti abafitana pa. Me test store no. No more to me to be. I go to Uganti. I go to Uganti. I go to Uganti. Please, I'm one. Can I call P-Court? I'm bois. I go to the team Katoria. I will get second division. I'm bois. A P-Court and Quebec. Yes, yes, I'm a second division. Not to get club second division. I'm bois. A P-Court and Quebec. And you hear that? I'm a bois.
In a society, this statement rightly said.
Tella Efua Edu has come to this meeting with a story.
When I first heard that ECG, right, want to increase their prices, I was like, hey, how are we going to cope with this? And some people outside there are duping. They are robbing government, and they are not doing their work well, and they are still coming to increase it again. Then we are going to die.
She's here representing the Association of Beauticians in Ghana. She runs a shop in the Accra suburb of Kwabenya. She says she was charged more than 16,000 in electricity cost in only 1 month and had her power cut by the electricity company of Ghana. Even though she claims to have paid more than 6,000 to recover her debt, she says ECG officials didn't record what she had paid, and it was only when she went to confront officers at the company's Kwabenya office that she discovered that all her payment hadn't reflected in the company's system.
I've paid the money, but the money that I've been paying, I paid it every month 2,000. But do you know what? They separate it. Like today, I paid 2,000, but they're written 1,500. 150, 200, 300. Meanwhile, I didn't pay it like that. I paid it in bulk. My suspicion that they are thieves.
Sometimes I don't know why they come here to ask for tariff adjustment when your operational expense continuously increases.
But Stella's story is similar to what many have been sharing at the engagement today. A lot of it going to show the inefficiencies in the delivery of utility in Ghana.
So why don't you plow back the profit you are realizing in improving services than rather coming to the Ghanaian to ask the Ghanaian for further adjustment upwards? However, we from COPEC also know that the state funds some of you, because whatever I buy fuel, I pay 56 pesos per litre for state-owned entities in the energy sector. And I think even your report also states that, the SIGA report states that aside your operational revenue, you realize government also gave you some money in 2020. So I buy air support and I'm also
one after the other, the utility providers lined up to explain why they needed more in tariffs. The Volta River Authority, the Ghana Water Company, the Ghana Grid Company, and the Northern Electricity Distribution Company all showed up to make a case for themselves.
We have implementation challenges, and in addition, we need to buy expensive meters that can mimic the tariff.
Ghana Water, we are one company doing production which you can call generation. We are doing evacuation or transmission. We are also distributing. And already, if you can weigh the problems of these three energy utilities and compare it to what one company will carry, then you can already begin to understand what we are going through.
These things, we get them all the time. They keep on asking for upward adjustment because of operational costs, etc. But they don't look at efficiency, which in effect affect the customers so much. At the end of the day, ask yourself, if you fail to collect what you are supposed to collect, and then you are making losses, definitely that cannot be passed on to the consumers.
All the accessories that we even use to sew, everything has gone up.
And if you increase the price of sowing, it becomes a problem. You don't get people coming to sow. You go to the shop, you sit there, there is no work for you to do. Because if somebody is coming to sow and the cost is so high, the person prefers to go for used clothing to use. So you are in the shop and you don't get any work to do.
The PRC says this is only the first of 5 separate engagements that will be happening across the country between now and July, when they are expected to make a decision on whether to accept these new demands for tariff increment. Between now and then, it's going to be a long, pensive wait for utility consumers to make a decision on whether they are going to have to pay more for what they are using now or not. Justice Baby, Joy News, Legon, Accra.
A social worker, looking at the proposed tariff increment at this current state, I think is going to bring a whole lot of stress on the Ghanaian public. Looking at, I think everyone has been complaining, especially workers. Their salaries have not been increased. And since there's no increment in their salaries, I think it's going to affect everybody. Just last week, I went to book a venue for our program, which is coming up, and I was told by the venue owners that they will be reviewing their prices due to the tariff increment. And I think this, as a whole, is going to have very, very much negative impact on the Ghanaian public, and I think they need to look at it. Either they increase salaries or they give a second thought about their percentages. Thank you.
Well, here we go. Welcome back on the show, and we get into tariff hikes and what exactly the latest development is. Bernice?
Definitely, Benjamin. Good morning to you and good morning to everyone who's joined us on your TV or on your mobile phones. Today we are having the big tariff debate, and we've been doing this for a couple of days now, but it's gotten to that point where the PURC is beginning to engage consumers,
right.
The general public, if I may say. So let's start the journey to where we are now. So it started with the PURC inviting proposals from utility companies, and then the utility companies submitted their proposals to PURC. So that was the point where we heard ECG saying they wanted 148%,
right,
and the Ghana Water Company over 300%. And it's gotten to that point now where the PURC is holding consultative meetings with stakeholders over proposals. We know the AGI and the utility providers were met first.
Right.
Then we have the public engagement. There have been a couple this week in Accra, and later it would happen in other regions. So after all those meetings, PURC will then have to find the balance. Because, Benjamin, you know, we've been talking about the reasons these utility providers have been given.
Right.
ECG says, look, we're almost bankrupt. We need the money for our operations. The Ghana Water Company Limited says, look, last year we only made half of our cost. Who caters for the next? So we also need the money. And if you want us to serve you better, you need to pay the right tariff. Then there's the people who say, we're already burdened. Increased cost of transportation, fuel prices going high. So PURC finds itself in the middle ground, and we'll have to find a balance.
Yeah. And that balance is going to be tricky. Part of it is self-inflicted.
Yeah.
From the days of large subsidies or subsidization from the Rawlings era, and the realization we had at a point that, look, this is not sustainable. To where we are now, where in terms of diversifying our utilities, focusing, for example, on electricity, we've not done so much. When it comes to water, add the problem of galamsey to the mix, and you have a huge problem even when it comes to getting muddy water, extracting water from mud, so to speak. So it's a pretty tricky situation, but at the same time, there are so many components to digest, like you're saying. The utility companies like ECG are talking about, and we'll get to them, but they are talking about the fact that it is simply unsustainable. The ordinary Ghanaian, you and I, we're also caught in the crossfire because, especially those in the public sector, salaries have not increased, the economy has shrunk in a bit, and the cost of living. So how are we going to merge all of that?
Yeah, and there are those who say, ECG, fix your inefficiencies, and then you can begin to make more money. Talk about the agencies that owe you. Talk about the many people who are connected illegally, who aren't paying for the service that they are tapping into. So it's just a mixed bag of issues. But let's continue with our presentation here. So this is the proposed tariffs by ECG from what we have now to 2026. And we are sourcing this from the PURC. So currently, per Ghana pesos per kilowatt hour, you have 16.12. That's the current tariff you pay for. In 2022, we are hoping to take it to 39.44 Ghana pesos per kilowatt hour. 2023, 44.55. So you can see the upward trend. It's not going down anytime soon. So that's it, Benjamin. So like some will say, we need to brace ourselves. And we know labor unions, worker groups like NAGRATS, they are all saying, you know what, even with inflation, increase our salary. So I'm sure with this happening, many more unions may want to get an increase in their salaries. Yeah.
And Bernice, even before you get into the percentages, it is clear. When you look at inflation, you look at the shocks to the economy, you look at the cost of everything, of course, that also feeds into inflation. You look at the e-levy, you look at everything else happening, and then you slap utility tariff hikes on that. There are some people who have not seen an increment in their salaries for at least 5 years. What are such people going to do? Everything has changed. And with the sort of rapidity when it comes to the change of the cost of items on the market today, regardless of what you're looking at, whether it's spare parts for vehicles, food that you're going to consume, everything, clothes. So it's a very, very tricky situation.
So today we are doing something different when it comes to taking the microphone to our audience, Benjamin, and we are going to the regions. I'll come and tell you more on what these tariff means to you in terms of what you pay per kilowatt hour. But let's get Ivy Setaji, who is joining us from the Volta region. Hello, Ivy.
Hello, Bernice. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you. Tell us what are people in the region saying with regards to the proposed tariff hikes?
Well, actually, it appears the people in the region are getting frustrated, according to them, because of the proposed tariff. They are saying that their salaries have not been increased. Some of them are also saying the economy is hard, and with all the things going on, if they increase the tariff, it's going to be harder or very, very hard for them to cope. And so some of them are appealing to government, to all the authorities, to do something about the situation, especially to the ordinary person on the street who doesn't have much and have to, pay that amount for tariffs. So it appears many people in the region are frustrated about the issue. And well, for now, according to them, there's nothing they can do. They can only pray and hope that something is done about the situation.
All right, thank you, Ivy. Ivy joins us from the Volta region. Ivy Strategy is our correspondent. Let's head to...
Maybe before you let go of Ivy. Ivy, are you still there?
I'm here.
Right. So how about the explanation that, look, pay us more so we can do better for you? There are many parts of the country, even in the Volta region, that are not connected to the electricity grid, and some places that are getting poor quality service. They are saying, pay us more and we'll do more for you. How are the people reacting to that?
Well, yes, of course. They also agree with the same thing. They want to be paid more so that they can also do what they have to do. But more especially, they are more frustrated. They don't see the reason why they should do the increment. They want a better explanation. They also want to be maybe a public education so that those people who are not who do not understand may be able to, especially the ordinary person, excuse me to say, the illiterates. When you go to the towns, the rural communities, they don't understand these things. What happens to them? So they want education to be done, public education, so that people can understand. But they also want authorities to do something about the situation.
Right. Ivy there, Bernice, giving us some scope on that matter.
Yes, let's head to the Western region now. Hello, Ina. How are you doing? And what are residents of the region saying about these proposed hikes?
Hi, Bernice. I'm fine. So, Bernice, in the Western region, when it comes to the increments in utilities, people are complaining bitterly, especially in this region where, for instance, water has not been flowing in most parts of the communities for over 5 months. So people ask that now if they say they are increasing the tariffs, for instance, water, is it going to be better? And over the years, it has been the case that, the water situation would improve even when there is an increment, but nothing better comes out of it. And to top it up with the current economic situation, residents are really frustrated. You speak to people and they are like, now it's not about you even thinking about having a balanced diet, but you have to just put something in your mouth, and everything has increased when it comes to rent, when it comes to food, when it comes to a standard of living. And to top it up with utilities, they feel that better the government can step in and then speak on behalf of the citizens, because this is the situation that, their salaries are not being increased, but everything is skyrocketing each and every day. So they are really frustrated. They feel that increments in utilities would add up another burden to them. Because trust me, Bernice, you cannot get like a better accommodation. Let's say if you want a good accommodation, you cannot get it even around 250 here in Takrady, even for a single room. And so you can understand the way residents here are feeling now at the moment.
Interesting, Ina. I'm told that the PURC will be coming to the Western region sometime next week for the engagement. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I have been told. Earlier this year, the PURC, the director, came around to meet some companies like the Ghana Water Company, ECG, VRA, to have an interaction with them. Hopefully, residents are hoping that there will be a stakeholder meeting where they would be engaged so that they can really understand them. Because, Bernice, especially with water, it's frustrating here in the Western region. Some 5 months, some even areas like a hilly area like Windy Ridge, since last year, November, has not had water flowing. But here the residents say that they even send them utility bills every month. So if there is an increment, what are they increasing for?
And do you have a response from the Ghana Water Company Limited on this issue?
Bernice, can you come again?
I was asking the issue of residents not being served but given bills at the end of the month. Is there a response from the Ghana Water Company Limited?
Yes, so the PR in Anabania says that if you are a resident in areas where there are no water flowing and you receive bill, you should come to them and then let them explain and see what is really happening. But then it's told me how many residents can march to their office in the name of going for explanations to why they are receiving bills and their water is not flowing. They say that because of illegal mining that they are not able to get water. It's because they have machines which are over 50 years and over, absolute, and so they need to change some of their equipment. And they also say because of the dry season, they are not able to get enough water to, distribute to residents within this region.
All right, I will leave it here. Thank you for sharing what's happening in the Western region with us. So, Benjamin, Ina paints a picture that resonates with quite a lot of people in this country that's not having access to water constantly. So there are those who know, for example, that between the hours of 6 and 12, my taps will flow. And so I must store as much as I can, because after that, the next time I'm getting water is in the next 2 days around the same time frame.
Right.
So
it's a bit of a rationing system, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
But it feeds into part of the reasons that the Ghana Water Company Limited, for example, has been citing when it comes to the need for tariff increments. And it talks about the inability of the company to raise enough revenue to finance much needed capital investment projects. These are some of those areas that don't have connectivity to the water supply chain, if you like, or those that are, that have equipment that needs upgrading or some work done on it. So these are very important matters as well. And again, you would have to look at it from both sides. But like we've been saying, it will take the PURC's own engagement for us to determine what levels these increments should go to. But from there, we'll be moving to other regions as well. We'll be connecting shortly with some of our other correspondents in the regions.
Yeah, but
before that,
but I think we should just run through and finish our presentation on the big tariff debate. So,
so this time it is ECG.
Yes, this time is on ECG. What does the proposed tariff mean to you as a consumer? So the volume of consumption, so if it's 50
in kilowatt
hours, you're paying 8.06 Ghana cedis currently. If the proposed tariff is approved, you'll be paying 19.72 cedis.
That's what? Yeah. Over 200%.
Yeah. That's quite on the high side. And if your volume of consumption is 100 units per kilowatt hour, then you're going to have 16.12 cedis, or it is currently, I beg your pardon, 16.12 cedis. You're going to have to pay 39.44. If it's 400, it's currently 64.48, but you're going to have to pay 157.76, Benjamin.
Right, so it's actually at over 100% for the 19.72, which is in consonance with what the ECG has been asking for. But when you look at the price differentials, so 100 kilowatt hours from 16 cedis 12 pesos to 39 cedis and 44 pesos, that is more than double. 400 cedis, you're looking at what? 400 kilowatt hours consumed, you're looking at 64 cedis currently, or 65 to approximate, which will now become 158 cedis approximately. And you ask yourself, how are we going to fork out these sums of money from our pockets? The reality being that we must pay for what we get, especially if we want better service. But the question is, how do we get that kind of money into our pockets so we can fork them out to the ECG, to the Ghana Water Company Limited, to NEDCO, to the VRA and all of that?
It reminds me of that conversation we had with Mr. Jantua, who says, you know what, these utility providers have been saying we haven't paid enough over the years for what we've consumed. So let's risk it. Let's give it to them what they want and see if anything will improve.
Because it's not even just about matrai makwe, so to speak. Let's try it and see. It's about the availability of the funding for a large segment of the people to even accommodate the changes. Do you get what I mean? Some people are already struggling. Look, my water bill comes sometimes and I ask myself, what exactly have I been spending, this money on? It's a bit tricky. That's for most people. But anyway, let's get into the conversation with some of those from the regions. We have Rafiq Salam joining us from what thereabouts. Rafiq, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Benji.
Right. So I am here with Bernice as well. We just want to find out how have people responded to the proposals by the ECG and the Ghana Water Company Limited, especially when it comes to these tariff hikes in WA?
I can report to you that Benjamin and then Bernice, that the people of the Upper West region are not reacting differently. They are much against the tariff hikes because for them, they think that they are not getting the best of services from these utility companies. Talking about the erratic water supply and also the power that normally goes off unannounced, talking about the forced power outages. And so for them, they think that it isn't the best. Some of them also complain that they have been paying for these tariffs, talking about these community street lighting and whatever. But their street lights are malfunctioning. They're not even working. Even in the one municipality here, it was some 3 weeks ago that we got some parts of what lighted up in the streets. And so the people are disapproving it, and they're not really happy the way things are going. And so they think that if there's going to be any increment, they will still not get the best. For them, they think that it's work done equals to zero.
What about water?
I've just spoken to you about water. I can tell you that the past 3 months, 3 months in the one municipality here, we have water from the Jamboso area. Talking about the black water. We've gotten power supply to the one municipality suspended a couple of times. The Ghana Water Company that came out with an announcement about some 40 systems around that particular area. And let me even tell you that even on the Eid al-Fitr, that very day that people were supposed to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, even there was no water, and that even more angered the people in the municipality here, because they are thinking that they are paying for these services, but yet they are not even getting it. Surprisingly, some community members were also not happy. Even this water that was not coming, but you have sea of personnel from the Ghana Water Company that go around to collect tariff, collect money from them, and so they were not really happy with some of these situations. My water is not coming out, but you are here to collect water. And so the people are really angered about that, and even the timing was not the best for them.
And so how do residents of WA access water?
Like I told you, we are using the WA water project, who data from the Jamboso, talking about the black water around the Durumo area, talking about the western part of the...
I'm asking, I think, Rafiq, I'm asking, in the absence of water provided by the Ghana Water Company Limited, how do you access water then?
People are using boreholes, private boreholes. They are used to, they have drilled for themselves. And even some are even doing it on commercial purpose. So, the other option is water that's being given to them by the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, but which is also built.
Thank you very much, Rafiq Salam. My colleague joins us from WA, painting a picture of how residents there have been reacting to the proposed hike in tariffs for water and electricity. Like I mentioned earlier, the PURC will be continuing its engagement with the public, and so we'll be hearing more on this. But before we went to Rafiq, we were showing you what the figures are in terms of what you consume, 50 kilowatts hour, and then what it translates into Ghana cedis now and what it will translate later. But let's talk about fuel now, because we've also got something for you on that to paint a picture of what the fuel situation is currently.
Well, we have Mohammed Abdul Kudus, who is PRO for the National Petroleum Authority. Mr. Kudus, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we've heard different accounts of what to expect in the next pricing window when it comes to petrol, kerosene, diesel, among others. But let's start with kerosene. That has been in the mix. Do we have a shortage or not?
Thank you for having me. But let me clarify. Which of the crises that we're talking about? We have the one that aviation is used, and then we have the one that generally we use probably.
So we're talking about both, because aviation fuel has come into the picture, but we're also talking about ordinary people who use kerosene for their daily activities. We have stories where some filling stations, for example, say that for about a month, they've not had deliveries of kerosene until about recently. So what is the situation? We've heard from the NPA talking about the situation in TOR, but where exactly do we lie currently? Is there a shortage, or is it just a failure in the delivery chain?
Certainly, shortage of any of our petroleum products out there at all. So, like you asserted, it is more of a distribution and supply effect. Kerosene that are generally have stock capacity to last us of a minimum of 77 weeks. That's more than 1 year.
A minimum of what? Just to clarify, did you say a minimum of 77 weeks?
77 weeks. So we have more than enough stock out there to meet the consumption needs of the public. And then for aviation, we have equally more than enough in stock. We currently are having around 6 weeks supply capacity, and so there's no shortage of either of the crises at all.
So Mr. Kudus, Berners here, what is causing that gap, if I may say, in the delivery process?
Okay, so for the crisis that is supplied for the general public, a greater extent it has to do with a decommissioning of a lot of the pumps. But most people have actually moved on from the use of kerosene to other forms of fuel. And so if you were an attendant or a supplier who sells that and don't get the required patronage, there's a tendency to want to close your pump down. And so that, to that extent, has actually taken off some of the supply points out of the system, and so you probably would not be able to get regularly at as easy as it would have been for you to be able to supply yourself or get yourself satisfied of that particular supply of the product. And so probably that largely is what is accounting for the seeming shortage of it. But the product is stock.
Mr. Kudus, you lace this with some probability. You say probably that could be the cause. Are there other extraneous factors that could be causing what we are seeing? Because we must be able to identify exactly what the problem is so we stem the tide of it. Because if we have such a store of kerosene and there are shortages in the system, you know the impact of that. So have you been able to identify the precise problem?
Oh, okay, so the identification of the problem, I have not, or we have not. But like I said, because we have to speak from the supply point, the storage capacity, what is in stock, that is what we are comfortably and are able to speak with much confidence. And like I said, I just wanted to give the assurance that what is in our pump or in our tank is enough to really meet the needs of the public for at least 77 weeks. So we are able to speak confidently from the supply point because that is what we're supposed to do. We have a planning department in the authority that is responsible for ensuring regular supply of this particular product. So if we are to speak, we are able to speak much more with confidence on the availability or otherwise of the product. The distribution of it, because it has other players that are involved whose activities are not necessarily controlled by us. Like I said, there is a marketing decision to make. If I have a product I'm selling and people are not buying, I probably can want to shift to another leg of a product that I probably would be able to get a lot more customers to buy to buy that. And so, if you push me to speak with confidence and with a certain degree of certainty, I should be able to speak more at the stock levels than the availability of it at various places for the public to be able to actually go and buy.
Wait. So just to clarify, you're able to speak better on the availability rather than distribution, because
Absolutely.
These are two matters you brought up. Availability, one, it is available, but in terms of its distribution, circulation, that is where the problem lies.
Yeah.
Right. So from where you sit as the MPA, before Bernice also comes in with some thoughts, can you give any guarantees to all those people who use kerosene in their daily activities? Can you give any guarantees that this situation is going to be remedied so that, with your engagement with the distributors, people would not have to struggle too much to get kerosene?
And so, like I said, probably out of the discussion we are having, it brings to fore again a certain demand of the product. And then the OMCs who largely do this distribution want to look at the previous decision of decommissioning some of their pumps, so that if there is a guaranteed market, you are assured that the people out there, the OMCs, would want to make the product available and sell it as regular as possible. Like I said, it's pure issues of the market determining it. So if now the demand is coming up, because frankly, it came to us as a surprise when the discussion around a possible shortage came about, because from our end and what we see and what we have, we know that there's no any cause for alarm at all with regards to its availability. So now if the discussion is going to be around the distribution of it so that the public can have access to it, then I think that that's going to be another conversation that could arouse the interest of the OMCs to really want to look at it again. But like I said, at our end and from where we stand and what we are supposed to do, we can talk more of the availability of the product rather than the end user and how the access should actually be done.
Right. At least you've given us some clarity on the availability and distributory factors as well. But is it correct to expect, and some industry watchers have put this out there, that kerosene prices are going to see another uptick of just about 1 cedi? Now, if we have such a vast store of kerosene, why are we seeing price hikes? Reminiscent of what we're seeing with other fuel products like petrol and diesel.
Okay, so forgive me, I probably would need to take a certain briefing from my place with regards to this, because what we publish regularly, if you are watching, is more of the kerosene that is used for aviation than what is used for domestic. So really, I don't have that information on the pricing dynamic of kerosene. I could actually get back to my people and then revert. But what we do right now has to do with kerosene for aviation and not for domestic.
Right. Well, that has given us some insight into this conversation. At least you've given us some assurance when it comes to availability. The rest has to do with distribution, and hopefully the MPA will be able to step in and do more in that respect. I don't know whether I can, and I'm going to try to do so, but just moving beyond kerosene as well. Bernice, I don't know whether you'd come in here, but even in terms of the other fuel components, when it comes to petrol and diesel, we're seeing upticks there. Recently, the transport unions pushed for a 20% increment, which has been enforced. What is the MPA doing? What should we expect as far as these other two fuel commodities are concerned?
Thank you. I think that for MPA, the Act has actually made it clear what our mandate is. We do not determine price. We regulate the pricing environment to ensure that investors get return on the investment and to ensure that the customers get value for money and are not shortchanged. And so when you ask what we can do or we will be doing in at the respect of the transport fares, I think that would probably be a little too much for the authority.
The Bank of Ghana has a desk, a newly created one,
Right.
that is supposed to determine the exchange rate when it comes to petroleum products. Are you able to confirm that for us?
Yes, I think that is one credit that I would enjoin everybody to give to the sector minister and my chief executive for having to be able to come up with that arrangement. I think we all are aware that critical elements that determine the price of fuel at the pump are mainly two things: the price of Forex and then the FOB price of the product on the world market. The FOB price we do not control; it is not within our control. But the Forex, to a certain degree, the Bank of Ghana can do something about it. And so, rather than having to allow the BDCs to go out chasing the dollar and to acquire sales, the Ministry of the Sector Minister and the Chief Executive of my authority actually were able to go into a certain arrangement with the Bank of Ghana that guarantees, first of all, the supply of the dollar, and two, the competitive rate of the dollar to the BDC, so that they are able to still guarantee the supply and availability of the product. So I think that it is one good thing that has actually been done, and that is how come that some other jurisdictions are seeing shortage in supply of the product, and we are not seeing same at all in Ghana.
Okay, so are these the figures you use in your current petroleum price indicator calculation?
Obviously, because in the midst of the mathematical formula, the Forex actually plays a very significant role.
So you're not so you're telling us you're not using what's on the open market?
No, absolutely not. We really have a price. So, like I said, it depends on what is. There's a regular interval at which they get it from the Bank of Ghana. So the price that is gotten for them is what is factored in the mathematics, and not what is prevailing out there in the market.
Mr. Kudus, I had an interaction recently with Duncan Amoah of COPEC, and he made mention of some of these matters, that yes, you have this desk, central bank arrangement, and regulated prices, so to speak, but that is not what they are really getting. That in fact, they're paying the same market prices for the commodity, which is squeezing them, for which reason they also can't make the reductions that would immune to the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. That is why Bernice was asking this question. So you're clarifying that they're getting it at a fixed rate, which is lower than the market rate.
Yeah.
All right.
What we're getting from the Bank of Ghana is more competitive than what is actually out there in the open market.
But maybe a quick follow-up. Now, this regulation, which gives them a better rate, does it make it possible for the OMCs to reduce their prices by more than we're seeing now?
Okay, you see, there are so many factors and dynamics that inform the ultimate price that is put on the petroleum product. It is not just one issue. So you might have a control or a certain regulation around one factor, but if the other factor is actually out there behaving uncontrollably, then it makes it difficult for us to ultimately see the benefit of some of the arrangements. So take, for example, the price of the product in the world market. First of all, it is not seeing a certain a reduction or probably a stability. It is regularly going up out there. And so one leg is controlled and the other leg is moving upwards. Then the benefit that ordinarily we should have enjoyed would not actually be coming at all. And another leg that probably we're not talking so much of has nothing to do with the cost of freight, which used not to be if you want, a major determinant. But the cost of freight is now going up so significantly. And I think that the bulk oil distributors have equally raised it so seriously. And so the dynamic is not as simple as it is that you probably have a certain regime that allows you to get the Forex at a competitive rate. Then automatically you should be seeing a corresponding effect of it in the price at the pump. But like I said, because there are other factors that adds up to the determination, when those factors are also going up and not being static or reducing, then the benefit that ordinarily we should be seeing would not actually be seen at all.
Mr. Kudus, just hold for us because we have a key industry player also joining the conversation, Duncan Amwa, Executive Director of COPEC. Duncan, a very good morning to you. I'm sure you've been listening and you've heard what Mr. Kudus has been saying, especially in relation to the exchange rate and how things have been made easier for you. We had this discussion the other day. Do you have any questions for Mr. Kudus on that beat? Because he says they're giving you an exchange rate which is better than the market rate, and so maybe you should be doing better when it comes to the OMCs. Your take?
Indeed. Kudus is correct when he talks of the Forex interventions that have been put in to mitigate the depreciation of the local currency. So he's spot on. The only challenge that some of the BDCs continue to have is that they probably can't get what they want. So for those who are lucky, they get 50%, some get 30%, some get 20%. It means that there's still a little gap. But then again, let me reiterate, the arrangement is far better than none. Because if they had no such arrangement, they would have to source for 100% of their dollar needs from the open market. So there's something being done, and I'm sure that is what probably might be mitigating the harsher reality at the pump than what we have seen. Although, admittedly, some of the numbers we are also seeing at the pump seem to be quite too high, and we think some of them should do well to reverse a bit. But that notwithstanding, there's been some interventions, and we must put that on record.
So the latest exchange rate, how long has it been? I mean, for this window, how long have you had a stable exchange rate without any fluctuations? Just to confirm from what you know, Mr. Amwa.
You are looking at about 2 windows now.
Which is for how long?
You're dealing with the first window, May. Second window, May has just started. But I know of the second window, March, also haven't had some Forex advance to players. And so it's been on for a bit. How long this will carry on, we do not know. But clearly, like I did indicate, it's a positive move by the Bank of Ghana. Would encourage that they do a little more in order to be able to meet that 20% import cover value that the oil importers would require. But like I indicated, it's been something quite positive, except, like I said, the value advanced to each player varies. While some get 50, others might get 20. You might not be able to get all the dollar need from the central bank, but at least there's something being advanced, and that is also mitigating the depreciating city from the levels we saw earlier. David.
All right, Mr. Amwa, just to find out from you, we've had reports of shortage of petroleum products on the market. What have you picked up on your own?
In order not to create panic, we rather choose not to communicate as forcefully. But truth is that there's been some disruptions in the market following from some maintenance that had to be undertaken at the CBM. Laycans had been planned unfortunately, vessels were not able, or cargo vessels were not able to discharge into the country. What was latest yesterday was that the CBM was left idle the whole day because, as aware, there's diesel pressure in the system. So we're rather waiting to discharge a diesel vessel, which probably had to undergo some documentation throughout the whole day. So petrol was also left from being discharged. What we would like to send across to the NPA is to ensure that we do not find a solution to diesel shortage only to create petrol shortage also, because we are refusing to discharge them altogether. But like I indicated, it might take the end of this week to get that system back to normal. But as it stands, there are quite a good number of stations you would visit and not be able to get the product simply because we've not been able to discharge or supply enough across the country. But as aware, there's no need to panic at all. It is not something that cannot be handled. There are delays in the discharge process that I can confirm, and that is probably also leading to the delays in supply to the outlet. But those are quite a few of the stations that have those disruptions. Others do have fuel, both petrol and diesel, although there's a lot of pressure, like I've indicated, on diesel currently. We would implore the NPA to ensure the Lacan is not left idle like they left it yesterday, the whole day without discharging even one cargo. When that happens, you'll be putting pressure also on petrol, and it won't be surprising if in the subsequent days you also get a bit of a challenge with some outlets also failing to have petrol at the various pumps. But diesel is what is in contention currently.
We appreciate your time here, Mr. Amwa is Executive Secretary of KULPEC. And Benjamin, you want to wrap up with Mr. Kudus?
No, I guess we've settled the matters. Only time will tell how these fluctuations affect prices moving on. But Mr. Kudus, thank you for joining the conversation as well.
If I could make a last word on the, the availability of the product.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, so Duncan rightly counted the challenges. You know, the level of the tea, the behavior of the tea sometimes determine whether or not the vessel can actually discharge. And there was also a disturbance around the charging point that disrupted the supply processes that we planned at the MPA. But I can guarantee and assure the public that we have much more enough storage available for the public to consume. There's a certain disruption in supply of the product at some, either the OMC or maybe the service stations of the OMC. And it is not because the product is not available or there's a shortage of the supply of the product, but one, when it comes to do with the OMC, a lot of them have a certain relationship with the BTCs that they deal with. And currently, because of the knock-off effect of the supply side of Russia, there is a certain shortage of the product in the system, particularly diesel. And so when an OMC who has a relationship with a certain BD is not able to supply it with the product, it could run shortage and not have fuel to dispense at this station. But that doesn't mean that the system, as in the country in totality, is in short supply of the product. Absolutely not at all. So for the country, we have enough supply. It's just that some of the OMCs have their own challenges and certain dynamics that is affecting their ability to get the product to the public.
You've said, you've given us reasons why a vessel carrying fuel may not be allowed to discharge, but will that happen today for the vessels that Mr. Amwa talked about? Are we going to
so like I said, the water level, the character and behavior of the water determine. And these are not things that ordinarily the human being control. And so
I appreciate that, sir. I'm just wondering, it's 8:31 already. Have you had any indication that the weather will be favorable today, or the sea level will be favorable?
Okay, so as at this morning, we've not had any information that there's going to be a certain potential distraction. But that notwithstanding, I still want to emphasize that we have enough stock level for all of our products in the country for the various users to really get to hold of and be able to use them for their respective activities.
Mr. Kudus, we're grateful for your time, and we'll get back to you should there be any further developments on this matter. Mohammed Abdul Kudus, PRO of the NPA. But Bernice, we have a lot more in terms of the increasing fuel prices.
Yes.
What has the trajectory been like?
Okie dokie. So this is a pictorial representation of what we've been seeing since January this year to May. Okay, so it's in Ghana cedis. The pinkish one represents petrol, and then we have diesel there. So in January 2022, petrol was selling at 6.7 Ghana cedis per litre. Yeah,
right.
And then diesel was 6.7. So they were at par.
There was some parity.
Yeah, they were at par. But fast forward to May 2022, we've seen an increase for petrol. We are now buying it at 9.85 cedis per litre. And then for diesel, it's 11.95 cedis per litre. As you heard Mr. Amwa indicate, there appears to be a bit of a shortage of diesel on the market. And usually, you know, when that happens, people...
There's a bit of a surge.
Yes, there's a bit of a surge, and it usually happens at the pumps, you know, when these various companies decide to do this. But we've got more to share with you with regards
to... And see that 11.95 there, of course,
yeah,
very reflective of what we saw per the Ghana Statistical Service, the inflationary rate. So that is just about 91%, almost 100% increment on the figure.
Yeah,
right
so we'll move to the next one.
Okay, so there we go.
All right, so here's what we've done for you. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about the impact of the Russian war, you know, on petroleum products across the world. And usually, even for our leaders, when we raise this issue, they want to paint a picture of what's happening in West Africa and even...
Exactly.
So what we've done...
So what is the reality?
Yeah, so what we've done is to select other African countries and show you what's happening for them also with regards to petrol and diesel. And we've, you know, converted their various currencies and put it into Ghana cedi, so it's easier for you to relate. So let's start with Ghana. So Ghana tops it.
On both.
Ghana tops it on petrol and
both
fuel.
For petrol and diesel.
So and diesel, thank you. 10.05 for petrol, 11.13 for diesel. Come to South Africa, second highest, 9.94. For petrol, 11.1 for diesel. In Ivory Coast, our neighbors, 8.39 for petrol and 7.42 for diesel. Burkina Faso, also our neighbors, 7.42 for petrol and 6.58 for diesel. But what's happening here with these two countries, Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso?
Interesting.
They have the petrol price higher than the diesel price. But for South Africa and Ghana, it's the flip.
It's also interesting, just to stay a bit on Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
When you look at their diesel price, it is actually reflective of what we had, even slightly lower than what we had in January.
Yeah. Interesting.
And ours has gone up by close to 100%.
Well, see what's happening in Togo. They don't seem to have, it's
not too much of a fluctuation.
Not too much of a difference between petrol and diesel. 7.18 for petrol, 7.3 for diesel. But watch Nigeria.
It's an interesting case.
Watch
and of course,
Nigeria.
it has to do with their own internal production dynamics.
So, same thing that came, you know, when I saw that, I said, look, this has got a lot to do with Nigeria being able to produce and refine its own fuel. So, look at petrol. 3.36 Ghana cedi per litre.
I could do with that.
I know.
And I'm
sure a lot of Ghanaians are saying, whoa, how we wish it was our story here. And someone says even if it was 7 cedis, it would be okay than the 10.05. But diesel again, 9.77 even for Nigeria.
Right.
So there appears to be some problem with the diesel issue.
But what is interesting, if we could just go back to that slide, you look at an oil-producing country like Nigeria. Of course, Russia has its own dynamics, especially when it comes to diesel and the impact. They are selling at 9.77. Interestingly, non-oil producing countries like Togo, like Burkina Faso, have lower diesel prices. Even the Ivory Coast has a lower diesel price. That makes for some interesting reading. Maybe there are some things that because we are not technical people in this area, we may not be seeing. But the point is that when you look at the general trajectory, somehow Ghana is stopping on all of them, both petrol and diesel for those selected entities. I mean, South Africa, fuel products have been typically expensive in South Africa. We're higher than South Africa, and that makes for some.
And let me just say again that these are selected African countries, okay? So it's not the entire African continent that has this as the ranking. Okay, let me just put that clear. But let's move to the next slide where we further explain the situation we find ourselves in with regards to increasing fuel prices.
All right.
So for the February fare review, so this is how it translates into the transport fare confusion, okay? So we had a 15% increase for the February fare review. And for total increase this year, that's all the times we've had the transport
February
union
15%, and the latest 20%.
So
gives
cumulatively,
you that
35%, yes. So that's what we are seeing now. And a lot of you have been complaining about how this is a stretch for your meager salaries, considering all the other expenses you have to cater for. So there's a bit more on the transport fare confusion.
But you know why it's biting even more? Because a lot of our products, or a lot of the vehicles, you remember the last time when I spoke to the Concerned Drivers Association, they were pointing to the fact that a lot of their buses operate on diesel. So with these prices and all of that, definitely we would be feeling the shock.
So quickly, in wrapping up this, factors affecting fuel prices. We have the cost of crude oil, and we have refining costs and profits, distribution, marketing and retail station costs and profits, exchange rate losses, and we've just discussed that with Duncan and Mr. Kudus. Taxes, levies and margin. This, that's
a huge
We heard from the TUC asking government to try and scrap the taxes, but government says, look, if we do so, we're going to lose some 4 billion cedis annually, and we don't want to do that. So that'll be it for our conversation on fuel and how it translates into your transport fares and all the confusion about it. Away from that, today we are taking a look at a suggestion by the Ministry of Education. Very interesting one. Here's what our minister says. Let's affiliate grade C schools to grade A schools. That's the senior high level. He thinks that this will help grade C schools imbibe the principles of grade A schools so that they'll be able to, perform better, help the students better. I don't know what you think of that, but we'll be having this conversation. Professor George Odro, former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the UCC, will be joining us. We've got Peter Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, and Divine Ekpe, Research Fellow, Africa Education Watch. You don't want to miss this conversation. Do stay with us.
Of the Ministry of Education and the Free Senior High School Secretariat have been meeting with the heads of some Category A senior high schools across the country. The stakeholder consultative meeting was to assess the performance of students and also deliberate on ways to address some challenges denting the free senior high school program. But in tackling the faltering performance of some senior high schools, the Ministry of Education is introducing an affiliation policy. The initiative would ensure the grade A senior high schools indoctrinate the underperforming schools in their principles for an improved academic performance. The Education Minister, Dr. Yawadichum, explained.
In this room today were the top schools in the country. Invariably, when we are opening a new school, we don't look at how we can partner the new school with the existing high-performing school. So you may have T.I. Hamadia School in Mampong, other towns across the country. But the T.I. Hamadia School of Distinction is the Kumasi one. If you can pair them up and link them up, they will learn from the best practice of the Kumasi TI Ahmadiyya. And in no time, they will become like Kumasi TI Ahmadiyya. We've not been doing that proactively. Now we're going to do it. So a new school coming up should be affiliated with an existing high-performing school so that they can learn the best practices of the high-performing existing school so that they will become like them. So become mentors, they become the role models for the new school, and then we'll be able to create more high-performing schools.
Meanwhile, the Director General of TVET, Mausi Nudiko Ariti, revealed the program has recorded its highest enrollment and will soon establish 3 TVET incubators to nurture its graduates.
Okay, doke. So that is the conversation. Grade A schools and the grade C schools at the senior high school level. What do we do to get them on the same page? Is it what the sector minister, Dr. Yawase Educhum, has proposed? Let the grade C schools imbibe the good practices from the grade A schools. Is it feasible? Some have said this is not the way to go. But we have an interaction with our guests. Professor George Odro joins us. We also have Peter Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, and Divine Pair, Research Fellow with Africa Education Watch. I'll start with you, Prof. Your initial take on this proposal, is this what we need at this point in time? Prof, you may have to unmute for us so we can hear exactly.
Oh, sorry. Good morning to our listeners and co-panelists. My first question, which I think sets the pace for my response to your question, is if you transfer the headmaster of, let's say, Infantipim Senior High School, which is a grade A school, to Yamongra Senior High School in Aguna East, do you think the headmaster of Infantipim grade A school can change Yamonra SHS to a level of grade A without any commensurate logistics? I'm not sure that is possible. You know, an empty sack never stands. Something must really go into it. And I'm sure we all know why some schools are categorized as grade A schools and others are categorized as grade C schools. If grade C schools are not performing, for me, the solution is not affiliation. The solution lies in ensuring equitable distribution of resources in the school system. Because teachers in grade C schools are qualified, they know what they have to do, but if they do not have the necessary logistics, impact becomes difficult. So it is not the issue of affiliation that will solve the problem. That is my take.
Okay, so that's your initial take, but I have a quick follow-up. We'll get into it better, but from the same logic then, at the university level, where you are a former pro-vice chancellor, we have some of the institutions having oversight responsibility for some fledgling institutions which would eventually become like them, like the UCC, where you used to be pro-vice chancellor. Now, can't that be replicated at the SHS level? Because that is the entire concept. And I agree with you, while it may not just be transplanting a headmaster or headmistress, there are other components. This is one of the components, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, we must contextualize issues.
Right.
The university has affiliates and it provides mentorship. That mentorship basically relates to how things must be done. And don't forget, before any university college is permitted to be accepted as an affiliate institution, that university college must have met some standard qualification requirements, criteria by the National Accreditation Board, now Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. So the fundamentals for ensuring quality teaching, fundamentals for ensuring quality learning are there. And so what University of Cape Coast does is just to mentor the mentoring institution as to how best they can maximize the resources they have in improving teaching and learning. That is what it does. You see, so if you talk about affiliating grade C schools to grade A schools, when the fundamental requirements, needs of the people, if you talk about lab, for instance, if you have a grade C school that uses maybe coal pots in helping children to conceptualize the phenomenon of heating as against infantile that has the equipment, the requisite equipment for doing that, and you're talking about affiliation. At the end of the day, they are going to write examinations that will not use coal pots. So for me, affiliation is very good when we think about sharing knowledge, sharing pedagogical skills, then that one becomes possible. But if the inputs are not there, the processes are default, then we cannot talk about affiliation. I think for me, it is a misplaced initiative.
Interesting. Let me find out from you, Mr. Anti. Prof thinks this is a misplaced initiative. He's giving us his reasons. What were your initial reaction to this? But let me just ask you, what went through your mind when you heard this suggestion from the Minister for Education? Hello, Mr. Anti.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and my co-panelists. Good morning to Prof, my former Pro-Vice Chancellor. When I heard this, in fact, it's something that I have a paper on that will be published somewhere during the year. So when I heard this, I was a little bit, I asked myself, this is interesting because it's something that I've been working on for some time now. And I normally look at policies from a different perspective. I ask myself, what problem do we intend to solve? And what problem have we identified that would necessitate such a policy? Now, without trying to write off this policy, I would naturally wait for the policy document from the Ministry of Education to give us a comprehensive understanding of what they think this affiliation policy entails. It might be different from my understanding of the affiliation policy. It might be different from the understanding of others on what an affiliation policy is. But if the ministry would want a very robust input, a potent one from professionals like us, like Prof, like Divine, they will need to put out a comprehensive write-up or policy brief on this so that we can make the necessary input. But it might interest you that we've been doing affiliation for some time. It's recently that it seems not to be in the system. You remember that somewhere late during President Rawlings' time and then early during President Kufuor's time, there used to be some yellow science resource buses that were in our districts. And what that resource buses were doing was that they used to carry science students from schools that were not having laboratories to schools that had very well-resourced labs. So the science students will move from a school like St. Francis Senior High School in Odan to Odan Secondary School for them to have their practicals there. That is a form of an affiliation. So we would need to understand what the minister means by his affiliation policy. Then we'll be able to make genuine inputs into it. But for me, I don't think it's a policy that should be rubbish at this stage of its discussion.
You say you've been working on a paper on this particular subject. What led to it?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. I've been doing some research work for the past 4 years and on basic education for my PhD thesis.
Okay.
This is one of the things that I'm looking at, and it's an interesting thing that the minister is talking about it this time. And I think that it's a good thing they will need to let us know what they mean by it, because my understanding and my readings and findings on the affiliation system as pertains to other places might not be what the minister wants to do. But if what I know an affiliation policy to be is what the minister wants to do, as explained by Professor Ojo, I think that is something that we can all support and push for in our various levels of education.
All right, so from where you said, it is clear that you are not against this, but you are for it to a certain degree. And since you're studying the area, I'd just like to find out from you, what should go into such an affiliation in terms of a rollout? If we were rolling out, what should we do?
So if you want to roll out an affiliation policy for senior high schools, I heard the minister talking about new schools coming up being affiliated to category A schools. I don't think that is what should be. I think what should be is that we have already schools in the system that are clustered around a particular area. And some of these schools would have to pick certain lessons from the category A schools or the good schools within that same catchment area. Sometimes the distance might be close or it might be far. Let me give you an example. So around Cape Coast, you have a school like Wesley Girls, you have Infantipe and so on. But then when you go to Elmina, we have Edinamai. When you go to Efutu, we have Efutu Senior High School. These are schools that can now be linked to schools in Cape Coast like the Infantipims, the Wesley Girls. Now, in linking these two schools together and saying that Efutu is affiliated to Wesley Girls, what you are doing is that if there are practical lessons to be done in science that Efutu Senior High School do not have the needed resources, the students can move into Wesley Girls to do it. If there are workshops, teachers in Wesley Girls can move to Efutu to have that kind of interaction, what we call collegiality between the two. So maths teachers in Wesley Girls can have a workshop with maths teachers in Efutu Senior High School, and they exchange ideas in terms of pedagogy and other things. In terms of at the head level, the heads in Wesley Girls can have a meeting in terms of how school administration should be carried out, and that kind of exchange of ideas can be carried out. And in doing that, we will have a format that these schools that have been affiliated to the category A schools would have to go through in order that within a period of time, they might be brought up to a certain level. It is true, as Prof said, that you can do this, but you need to provide the down school, the category C school, with the needed resources. So all across the world, affiliation policies are short-term. They are not long-term. You do it for a period of time to make sure that within that period of time, you have lifted the other school to a level that you think that they can now stand on their own. They have the needed resources. They have the needed everything that they need to be able to produce the students that you want in that particular school. So affiliation policies are short-term, and they are giving specific performance indicators that should be put in place. So that is how I think it should be. I don't know what the minister is thinking. That's why I said that for me,
we have to wait here.
Yes, for the ministry. And this is something that the ministry, they don't do. By this time, you talk about a policy, you should have a paper on it all over the place, so that professionals like Prof, like myself, like Divine and others would make input into it. So by the time that you finalize your document, you have a wide variety of ideas to put a document out that would be accepted and implemented in a way that will benefit everybody. But they have the ideas in their head and they start implementing it, and when you talk about it, they think that you are against it.
Interesting. So, Prof,
excuse me, can I quickly chip in here? I think I agree with.
Is that Prof?
Yeah, that's Prof.
Yeah. I agree with Peter that we need more information on this, and perhaps a national stakeholders discourse on that. It's very encouraging that Peter made reference to the science resource mobile agenda initiative, which was used to help low-performing schools to gain skills in teaching science and others. But you see, let's take Wesley Girls. Now, how is Wesley Girls even managing its endowed science lab in relation to the large enrollment it has? So even the grade A schools themselves, considering the number of students that they have, they are overutilizing the equipment, the resources that they have. And that is why, and I agree with Peter again, that we need actually to think about resourcing the grade C schools, but not make affiliation a policy initiative. In that sense, we'll be indicting even the teachers who teach in grade C schools.
All right,
they
Prof.
are not qualified, they don't know what they have to do.
All right,
And
Prof. Sorry to interject.
Yeah.
We'll come back to you, but we've heard your position, which is that for you, this is a misplaced policy. And we just heard Peter Anti. Let's hear from Divine, where he is with the Africa Education Watch. Thanks, Benjamin. So, Divine, where do you stand in this whole discussion?
All right. Good morning to viewers and also to co-panelists, Prof. and Peter. Yes, let me pick it from where Peter ended. Too often we just hear of policy or program initiatives in the media space, and the next minute you see the ministry running it, which broadly at times lack enough consultative process to have multiple ideas into it, and for stakeholders to understand how the policy intends to operate, and also they can also make effective input into its running or operation. So I believe the minister announcing this is not the first time, of course, this is not the first time, though, coming up with it again. I believe by now they would have come out with a document that is going to guide the implementation of this particular initiative. It is also early day yet for us to entirely dismiss the idea of this affiliation program or policy. Too early because we don't know how it intends to be run, and therefore we need to be cautious about dismissing it entirely. I believe there are benefits that we can reap from this affiliation. There are benefits to it in terms of cross-pollination of ideas among teachers and then health teachers. That could also be there. Co-creation of program among the affiliated school and then the school they are affiliated to. There could be co-creation of programs, and also there could be mentoring and special training among themselves. So there are issues there. Even the mentee school can also be kind of the school that is mentoring the other school can act as an accountability partner on the school that is affiliated to it. So there are benefits that we can derive from this affiliation, only if we know how to go about its implementation and not haste into implementation at any stage. It needs a lot of broad consultation so that professionals, as Peter said, can make enough input into it. It shouldn't be one of the usuals that we heard on radio or TV, and then we start to implement it. Yes, of course, while this may be a good idea, that alone may not be enough to translate grade C school to grade A school. We need to understand the context in which the grade C school also operates. Most distinguished feature of grade A school from that of C is that they are well resourced. They have science labs, other labs that are available to them. They have project sites. There are a lot of resources available. Dormitories are there, classrooms are with them. They don't have to be congested in classroom. So they have a lot that of advantage to them. They have supporting all students that have been helping with some of these projects that they embark on. So if only you feel like let's affiliate them, they should learn best practice, which is good. But after learning the best practice and they come into their school, and now we have the context and the things that they need to implement the best practice which are not there, then you understand that that best practice that they've gone to learn from their grade A school may not be able to be implemented in their school. So we need to fertilize their environment, their context, so that when they get the idea, they can also be able to effectively implement that idea. And that is where I believe the Prof and Peter are all coming from, that yes, we need to resource this grade C school as much as we are resourcing the grade A schools. And if we're able to do the resourcing, then whatever they'll be able to learn from the grade A school, they will be able to effectively implement that in their school. So without the resource allocation to them, they can learn whatever best practice. They can have the mentoring, they can have cross-pollination of ideas, they can co-create programs, but they may not be able to implement the ideas just because they don't have the resources to implement that. So there's a need for us to have a policy direction on this. How do we intend to go about it? Are we going to, once we've selected some schools for the affiliation, so far we have 8% of schools that are grade A school, that is about 55 schools. So let's say in a year or 3, we want to upgrade grade C school to the level of grade A school, which is okay. So maybe we've selected 55 schools, attach them to the existing grade A schools. So what are we going to do within this particular time frame that we've given ourselves to upgrade the grade C school to the grade A school? What are we going to do aside they sharing ideas? Are we going to have special grants allocated to them to improve the infrastructure in their school? Are we going to have a special grant that helps to upgrade the training skills of their teachers as far as their continuous professional development in school? What is the direction? Or just that we peg you to St. Peter, we peg you to Achimota, we peg you to Accra Academy, and then that ends it? Is that how it's going to be? No, we believe that there will be more intervention, there will be more resources that will be demanded for its effectiveness. And therefore, we shouldn't just say that there will be affiliation and then it ends there. We believe that too often just coming up to talk about idea and then we do not get the enough components of it. At times, it creates some of this difficulty among the policy analysts, whether this is something that you even want to agree with. So as it stands, I wouldn't want to dismiss the idea entirely. I'm just hoping that going forward in the subsequent days, we'll be able to hear more about this program. There'll be a document for us to proceed. What is the overall objective that we intend to achieve? Of course, it's obvious that we want to upgrade them to grade A school. That's the overall objective. But how do we intend to doing it? Is it just ending that, okay, I have pegged you to this school and ends there? Or there's a special attention that is going to be given to it? We know of interventions like SIP, Secondary Education Improvement Program, that gives special attention to less endowed school or underserved schools so that they can also improve. With that, such schools, they have special grants so that they can improve situations in their school, so that they can come out of the level in which they are.
Right,
so if we are going to something like that, is there also going to be a special grant to support its implementation?
So funding crucial there. Prof Oduro, very quickly on this bit, 2 interesting bits I want you to look at. The first, we know that with the over 700 senior high school level institutions that we have, only about 8% of them are grade A. And you look at the fact that there are higher concentrations of grade A schools in some regions. Look, for example, at the Greater Accra region, Central region, maybe the Ashanti region, compared to maybe the Oti region, the Savannah region, and others. So there are disparities even when it comes to these A-class schools. We also know that out of this 8%, these 8% contribute about 46% of those who roll over continue to the tertiary level. So the question then is, how feasible is it with this paucity of grade A schools to spread them across whether regional borders or however the framework will be to ensure that the other 92% are actually able to tap into them? That's my first bit to you.
Well, thank you very much. It's because of some of these issues that you have raised that for me, I dismiss this initiative at birth. You see, he who has ever been bitten by a snake runs away at the mere sight of a worm, harmless worm. We have seen, and I have seen, where policies are implemented in recent times. You hear radio announcement, the next time it becomes a policy. And once it becomes a policy, interrogating it becomes difficult. And that is why I think these are the practical challenges that we have. And for me, I think that what needs to be done, for instance, if within the 6 years past, government had decided that, yes, we have an intention of promoting affiliation, but we also know that affiliation works well if grade C schools are resourced. So within the 6 years, we are targeting just 15 grade C schools. We are resourcing them so they will be in tune with what draws people to class A schools. By now, I'm sure about 15 schools would have been leveraged to that level. The second issue is that I agree with the shared, in terms of the soft skills sharing, pedagogical sharing, and all those things. They are very good. They are assets so far as affiliation is concerned. But affiliation will become meaningless and will perpetuate grade C school level if it is not properly planned, if it is not based on equity so far as resource distribution is concerned. And that is why I reiterate that previous experiences.
Do you foresee that even if this is going to be rolled out, it would be done on a purely regional basis, restricted to regional borders? So you have some schools understudying, the grade A schools in a particular region, and it stays there? Or should the framework be extended, looking at the small numbers of grade A schools?
Well, I think we wait for the Ministry of Education to come out with its details as to how it intends doing this. But I'm just wondering, take the central region. If you take a grade A school, we have in Kintampo, we have Wesley Girls. Already, there's pressure on their facilities. And the academic calendar is also so stiff in such a way that flexibility is an issue. So how practically is this going to be done? I think the minister should come out clearly so we can make informed contribution to this.
Let me come to you, Peter. There are those who say, in the first place, we shouldn't be grading our schools. They are for inclusive learning. So mix the good students with the not so good students, ensure that all the schools, at least, like Prof said, meet certain standards. And let's see how the positive learning attitudes of the good students could wrap off those who are not so good, obviously with supervision from well-trained teachers. What? Too bad. I'm told we lost Peter there. So Prof, if you don't mind, you can answer that question about solving our education problem with regards to quality by encouraging inclusive learning instead of categorizing schools grade A, grade C, and grade B. Hello, Prof.
Are you with
us,
us, Prof.
Thank you very much. I'm on. Yeah, thank you very much. Mixed approach to teaching is very good because students learn better when they are engaged with their peers. And so mixing low performing with high performing, it is a good strategy. But then we need to put in measures. If you go to the Western countries, these are done, but in every classroom, they have support teachers. Support teachers who will be handling low performing so that nobody in the class is disadvantaged when the teacher is teaching. But in our context where we have one person handling over 100 and the person is teaching towards examination, it requires proper planning if we want to adopt that model. And I believe the issue, categorization of grade A, B, C, D, the rationale for me behind this is to identify schools that need to be targeted for support, so they can be brought up to the level of grade A and others. We do not categorize them to put in measures that will help them remain where they are. That shouldn't be the issue. So mixed approach to teaching, it's a good thing. Thank you.
we appear to be having some challenges with...
Hello?
Yes, Professor Odro, we got a bit of that. We're experiencing some challenges with your connection. Maybe we'll try to remedy that. Is Divine still with us?
Yeah, Ben, I'm here.
Great. So on the back of what Prof has been saying, very quickly, we have a comment coming through, and I would like to rope that into a question. Stephen Tay says, to begin with, grade A schools are given first-class students for admission. This, in the first place, makes teaching and learning relatively much easier, even with inadequate facilities, because the students are self-motivated. Grade C schools are often lumped with students with bad aggregates. Give the so-called grade A schools the category of bad aggregate students sent to the grade Cs and let them produce elite students for us. So this feeds into something that the education minister has been saying in recent times, that if the grade A schools feel they are indeed grade A, they should accept students who are not really up to their standard and refine them to that quality. In terms of this conversation, how does that wash on you? Is this something you are in agreement with?
Yeah, part of my thinking is that in implementing this affiliation school, which of course will need resource beef up, is when we need also to consciously see how best we can integrate students with grade A, also or best grades into some of these grade C schools. So that's the mix-up approach Prof was talking about, that in your educational setting, there should be level of students that are mixed together. You don't just pack all the poorly performed students at the BC and then put them in grade A schools. Then they are left there alone doing their own thing without any challenge, without any motivation from each other. If we consciously want to improve from grade C to grade A, how best do we even integrate some of these best grades into the grade C school? Ideally, they'll only love to go to the grade C school, but if they've seen that, okay, at least this school, grade C school, is attached to a grade A school by name alone, probably psychologically that could have influenced a child going there. All right, this school may not be up to the best in terms of facilitating others, but it is affiliated to a grade A school by this name. So there is a special attention given to this school by virtue of their affiliation. So you going there could be also in a way that although you are not in that grade A school, you have some affiliation to that grade A school. So with time, the effort is that you're going there as a best student is also to, as much as possible, influence students that come with poor grades. So we don't need to just be dumping the poorly performed students in grade A school and leave them alone and expect that by a miracle, the teachers will do something and then they will be able to perform well. No. So as we begin to look at this, how best we can be done, I believe that the integration of good grades and then poorly performed students can be one of the approaches that we have to adopt. As much as we are reserving 30% of spaces in our grade A school for students that are from poorly endowed schools, we have to also to see how best we can integrate some of these grade school best grades into some of these grade C schools. I think it will help. Once we begin to approach it with this mix-up, consciously we'll be able to raise the level of performance in this lower performing school to where we want to be.
Good point on that. Just to wrap the entire conversation, and we are digressing slightly, but it still has to do with education. You've also followed the situation when it comes to feeding pupils and students, and the 97 PESWA provision that has been made. Those who are catering for them are calling for 3 Ghana cedis. But it's interesting because the caterers as well have other woes to deal with. The last window, the third term of 2021 and the first term of 2022 have not been catered for. They've not been paid for those situations. So to Prof and to Divine, I would just like to find out from you, from that angle, what do we do? I'll start with you, Professor Drew.
Oh, thank you very much. I think if you plan to implement a policy, then you put in measures to ensure that that policy progresses. It's very interesting. I was listening to a conversation on radio yesterday And the explanation was that there were outstanding monies that had to be paid to that is in arrears. And my question was, if feeding obviously is very essential for children's learning, and you know that schools are reopening, you have arrears. Why did you have to wait till, I mean, those involved raise issue before you decide to plan? So for me, I think that it's unfortunate, and we need to revisit the issue of planning very well, so we can avoid some of these things. I'm very sure if there had been conscious efforts engaging these people before this time, we wouldn't have been experiencing this. It also now raises other issues as to how best we can maximize the parent-teacher associations, their operations. Now, it does appear that even though in some schools PTAs are operating, they are operating undercover. We need now to empower them to operate well, so they could support cushion schools with some of these issues to avoid a situation where withdrawal of services will create challenges in terms of feeding our students. That's what I have to say.
All right, Divine, very briefly on this. That will be your last word. Very briefly, Divine.
All right, we believe that the program has... Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello?
We believe...
Hello?
Hello?
Go ahead, Divine.
All right, so the program has so far achieved its intended purpose of encouraging school participation among our primary school children. We know that so far it has covered 71% of primary school students, including KG, and that is about 3.4 million pupils. And we need to ensure its sustainability. We've done so well from 2005 up to now. We've been able to sustain it, although not to the best. I believe is that government will have to be on regular basis to be reviewing the amounts that they give to the student per unit. Looking at the current market trend, you can't sustain a child with 1 Ghana cedis, which translates also after taking the 0.3 pesos. They are only left with 97 pesos. You can't feed a child with that. And government will have to, without even needing to be told by anybody, that you need to review the amount per unit that you allocate to a child in a school to be fed. The government will need to do that and review the amount. I think they are asking for 3 Ghana cedis. I just believe that they will be able to, yesterday meeting, they'll be able to come to a compromise on the agreed amount. Of course, there will always be an arrears because the caterers will have to pay the policy, will have to pre-finance the feeding, and then after the end of the term, government will pay them. But we don't expect that arrears to be in, there will be arrears up to even 2 previous terms. Right. At least if it's 1, we just understand that they are just pre-financed and then you are yet to clear them off. So it's very important for government to ensure that there's regular flow of money onto the feeding of the children. If you look at the section 3.1 of this of the caterers contract, it says that they have to be fed with food that have the 3 complements, and then at least milk a day, egg also in a week. They have to be fed with. You can't feed a child with those things in a week with 0.97 Ghana cedi percent. Government will need to hit to the call of these caterers, and then they will agree on something.
Divine, we're grateful for your time. Divine Quay, of course, with Africa Education Watch. We also had Peter Anti joining the conversation earlier, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies, and Professor George Odro, who is a former Pro-Vice Chancellor at the University of Cape Coast. But Bernice, we have quite an interesting conversation coming up right after this. It has to do with a very disturbing development.
Yeah, in Nkranza, we've heard that Justice for Albert campaign. We've also heard from the MP for the area, who is related to this young man, and the youth there are agitated. We heard yesterday that they were going to hit the streets. We'll be in Nkranza to find out what's been happening this morning, but you want to stay for that conversation. We'll be right back.
A mother withers in pain as she recounts her last moments with one of her sons who was picked up in an ungodly hour by police. The 28-year-old second-hand shoe dealer and a digital satellite installer was bundled into an unregistered private car on suspicion of being an armed robber. That was the last time the mother will be setting her eyes on the man who has been providing the needs of the family.
Aprosifo na neku akwala no menyi so obi ba behia abram driver e ka mo ho nsia na omo betakema mo amwo ka nu mu bia ka na hwehwe bia mo mumu amoka ho bia mumu bia tue na nka mumu bia na akwala no kwa timfimfini e na tue tim kanon nti enya nokore.
Inside the Kasajan home of Albert Akwesidonko, there is an unsettling scene of clothes and other personal items strewn about in one of the rooms. The police team ransacked Albert's room in search of evidence to incriminate him. But his uncle, Reverend Dr. Matthias Sarkodie, who led me to his nephew's room, says the police found nothing incriminating.
Deep in the night, around 2:30, the vehicle they brought over here was not a registered vehicle, and it wasn't an official vehicle of the police. The mother was even about to join them, and they took the vehicle away. Kwasi was not part of the armed robbers, so they had nothing to say, rather to inform us to be moving up and down, at least to steal time in order to have another case to present to the regional commander.
Residents allege Albert was picked after bumping into an armed robbery scene which involved some police officers, an allegation we cannot independently verify. But police sources say the deceased was shot in crossfire between police and suspected armed robbers in an attempt to arrest other accomplices. At Tachimai, headquarters of the Bono East Regional Police Command, police declined to comment on the issue. Back at Nkranza, the killing of Albert has angered the youth who want justice for Albert. Nana Ej Bafu Romeo is convener of the Nkranza Youth Association.
It's Albert today, but tomorrow who is next? It could be me. This is not a Nkranza issue. This is a national issue. Please, men that we are paying with our taxes, those who are in uniform to protect us are now the people that are turning back to harm us. The youth are angry, but we are calming things down. If not, they will have been violent, there will have been chaos, but we don't want a situation or a scenario that we will lose another life. We don't want to lose any life. The streets we will hit. We just want justice. We have to display our displeasure.
The police at Techimai say the matter is being handled at the national headquarters. From Nkranza, in the Bono East region for JoyNews, Oiminteria reporting.
The people of Nkranza are very traumatized, mostly the youth. If you just look around, you can feel it. Currently, I am feeling it. I feel like it's Albert today, but tomorrow, who is next? It could be me. This is not a Nkranza issue. This is a national issue. Please, men that we are paying with our taxes, those who are in uniform to protect us are now the people that are turning back to harm us. The youth are angry, but we are calming things down. If not, they will have been violent, there will have been chaos, but we don't want a situation or a scenario that we will lose another life. We don't want to lose any life. Albert is the only one that is going to die out of this, and it should be the end. The streets we will hit. We just want justice. We have to display our displeasure. Tomorrow, being Tuesday, the youth want to just display with placards. It's just a peaceful one. It's a march. And we will present a petition to the IGP, and that petition will be presented to the police. The same way we will petition the president through our MCE. The same way we will petition our Nananom, talking about the traditional council and the Queen Mother.
Benjamin, really troubling development in Nkranza
Very.
there. But our man, Ohiming Teria, who's been on the beat for us, is still in Nkranza, and he joins us. Hello, Ohiming. So we just had the young man there say they were going to hit the streets today. Has that started already?
We have Ohiming Teria with us. All right, so quite a situation there in Nkranza. What, 24-year-old man? 27.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because some of the details about this entire bit. Did he witness a robbery at a point, as has been alleged?
Yeah.
Did he cite a police officer in the midst of all of this? Was this retaliatory? I mean, there are so many angles to it. Yeah. He supposedly contracted a loan of 5,000 cedis for his water business and all of that. So if he was indeed engaging in any nefarious activity, I mean, it's a whole mix. And honestly, when you look at it, both from the police and those in the community, there are tacky little bits that don't add up.
Okay, but Benjamin, the point is this, that whether the person was involved in a crime and they were picked up by the police still has responsibility over that person's safety, even in their custody.
Exactly.
So I'm told Ohiming is ready now. Hello, Ohiming. How's Nkranza this morning, and have the youth hit the streets yet?
Good morning, Benny from Nkranza. I must say, yes, the youth of Nkranza had planned a protest march and also to express their displeasure over the death of one of their own. A gentleman, they say, has been a very good citizen in the community. But I can report that the planned demonstration has been put on hold. The leadership tells me they pick intel that if they go ahead with this particular protest march, there's a likelihood that it could create a chaos and open avenues for criminals or miscreants among them to misbehave and have even brushes with the law. So as leadership, they took this decision to protect their sanity in this community and also, promote peace and unity among the people. But that's notwithstanding, a lot has been happening, especially from the political side. We are learning of a upcoming RESEC meeting on the issue, and we are also picking information that the Inspector General of Police was also scheduled to visit the community. So a lot is happening on the ground. And beyond this, the Traditional Council is also meeting the press to also express their sentiments on the issue. But luckily, we have the MCE for Nkranza South, Mr. Oredu, here to speak to us on some of the decisions that Municipal Security Council, for instance, has taken on the issue and what they are doing on security as far as the death of the gentleman, Albert Donko, is concerned. So, Benny, that has been the story from Nkranza South Municipal.
Ohiming, let's just hear your interaction with Mr. Oredu. We were told by the youth that they were going to petition the president through him. Though the march has been put on hold, has he received any petition or has he forwarded anything to the presidency?
All right, let me find out from the Municipal Chief Executive, who also doubles as chairman of the Municipal Security Council as well. So, Ms. Oredu, thanks for the opportunity to speak to us. As far as the Albert Donko story is concerned, there are a lot of speculations. People are speculating that stories that are not even linked to the issue are being brought to the fore. As head of music, what is the true story as far as the death of this gentleman is concerned?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I must say I'm grateful for having you this morning. On the 23rd of April, that was Saturday, there was a big funeral at one of the outskirts villages, precisely Bridi. So we all went, myself, the regional minister, and a host of other stakeholders. So I think we left the village around 5:30 that way. The regional chairman and his entourage were all part. So when we just got to Nkranza, then we heard there was a robbery case just on the stretch, some few meters to Nkranza. So the next morning, I called the police commander, then he gave me the briefing. I even went to the extent of speaking to one of the victims who confided in me a lot of issues with regards to the happening that particular night. So the next day was Sunday. That was 24th of April. Then on that 24th day too, there's a suburb here called Sesimai. Just at the verge of entering the town, Kranza, a similar robbery happened there. So you can imagine, within 2 days, serious robbery cases. Then again, the NIB called to brief me about it. The police commander, the municipal police commander, I called to ask him about it. Then he gave me briefings as to how the whole thing happened. And according to his narration, they heard that there was a robbery case, and then he called on the patrol team to move there. So upon them reaching the scene, the robbers started firing at them. So they replied. So upon them realizing that their strength could not withstand that of the police, they then dashed into the bush. And then the police followed, firing behind them. So after 10-15 minutes, they decided that they should enter the bush and see. Probably if the gunshot might have wounded any of them, then they see whatever measures they have to. So they entered, and in the course of searching, they found a laptop. This is a report given to me by the municipal police command. They found a laptop and some other items which they brought to the police station. And so afterwards, they had some intel from the items they gathered that there was one suspect, somebody they suspected that they had to pick up. And prior to that, they had informed the regional intelligence unit about the recent happenings of armed robbery in Nkranza. So they were also on the standby. In fact, according to the police, the intelligence unit had been in town conducting some investigation about the previous ones. So when this one came, they added it and they were doing their search about it. So I am told that they picked one guy up. Then, according to the police, they brought him to the station, the municipal police charge office. And then after some few minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, the guy was picked up to Techiman. And that was when I was cut off from the whole issue. So the next moment was when I heard of the agitation from the youth. So since then, we've been following, try to get people calm, cool the leadership, and also to make sure that we find justice to whoever justice is due to. So in short or in brief or in summary, that is what I can say for now.
Okay, so the gentleman that police picked, could it be the Albert Donko whose death has brought some chaos or tension in this community?
Exactly. The police commander, the municipal police commander showed the picture to me. I demanded to know whoever had been allegedly picked. And then the picture was shown to me. In fact, the interesting issue is that I had even taught him before. He's my student back at JHS. But when he showed me the picture, I didn't recognize him until when I met the youth leadership, the conveners, that one of them I taught prompted me that, sir, it is Alberto, your students or your people who was involved in this particular issue.
So did police tell you that the gentleman in question has been shot, and did they even talked about what led to his shooting in that regard?
Not at all, not at all. According to the municipal police command, The guy did not even spend up to 30 minutes in their hands.
So for police, the gentleman is alive, right?
No. I am saying that when he was picked by the intelligence unit, according to the briefing I had from the municipal police commander, they took him to Techiman, and that was all. That was all. That was the end of the conversation I had with the police until this agitation broke up. That all this rumor started trooping in. You understand? So to that extent of telling me that he was shot, he's dead, and those things didn't come in. Those were the initial stages. Okay. It was when the protests initiated that all these rumors were coming in.
So, as head of music, help me understand this very well. The Albert Donko gentleman, is he alive, or probably he's dead and gone? So residents of Nkranza should be informed and well informed.
As we speak, I think that was Friday. The agitation started last Thursday night. When I was away, I was in a conference in Koforidua, so I called on my divisional command and the municipal command, and looking at the fragility of the issue, it wasn't wise for them to have come to the scene. In fact, according to them, the original command instructed them not to involve in the issue because that would have triggered a lot of issues. And so the original minister, and for that matter, Resek, came in, joined hands with the traditional leadership, and then they intervened. So they were able to calm down nerves. Then that very night, I drove from Koforidua, although I had not finished the conference. But as head of music, rightly like you said, I had to come down and see to it that there was peace in Nkranza and its environs. So Friday in the morning, regional minister came again, plus the traditional leadership, specifically Nananko Biahene. And then we met the youth. We spoke to them. They agreed. And the assurance was that we were going to dive into whatever brought about this particular issue and then bring finality to the issue. Additionally, make sure that justice, and for that matter, justice, is found for the family and the people of Nkranza.
Yeah, you're talking about justice. My question is the gentleman, Albert, alive or dead? Because we are talking about justice. Why are you talking about justice at this stage?
Oh, sorry, I think I had answered that question. I haven't, right? No. When we met, I told you the regional police command was here. So per the briefing we had from him, the regional police command, that our beloved Donko is no more. He's no more.
How is the situation affecting security in your area here?
Yes, to some extent, it is not going down well anyway, but we are on our toes. In fact, the police, coupled with the other security agencies we have here, are working tirelessly. In fact, you see, people are trying to take advantage of what has happened. We always have bad knacks amongst us. And so when issues of this nature erupts, they also take advantage and then do certain things.
And who are these people?
That are untold. I am talking about the bad knacks amongst us. The bad knacks. It is obvious that we have criminals in every society or community. And so when issues of such nature happens, they always take undue advantage and misbehave. You understand? But I can assure you, although there are some issues that are bordering with the security, specifically the police, we cannot confirm for now because there hasn't been any conclusive investigation with regards to the issue at hand. You understand? And so I would just plead with anybody not to start pointing, accusing fingers on anybody until we arrive at the finality of the issue.
But yes, what we know is that the gentleman was picked by police, so he was in police custody. And if we are saying that he's dead, can't we, put accusing fingers on the police? Can't we point accusing fingers on police?
It is the police that picked him, like I told you initially, and that a unit from region came and took him away from the municipality. That according to the briefing I had, he didn't even spend up to 20 minutes with them here in the municipality. So anybody is right to at least throw that accusation once it is the police. You understand? But you see, as we speak, there are some pictures hovering around social media pointing specific hands on certain entities within the police community in Nkranza here. That is what I'm pleading with the public, that as we stand, investigations are not conclusive. I don't even know if there are any other source of investigation, be it forensic or whatever. You understand? And so if you just jump and say it is Akosi or Abena who shot him or who killed him, I don't think you're trying to be fair to the person. But I'm saying that based on what I'm seeing on social media.
But it's okay to accuse police now?
For now, I wouldn't say we should accuse them. You understand? Because the police hasn't also come out to say that we killed him or we murdered him or we shot him. We are at the stage of investigating. So I would plead that hairs cool down, let the police do their work. If we feel that it was in the hands of the police and that we wouldn't trust them to do justice to the issue, we can call on the other security agencies. If it is so wealthy, get them to support the police.
So how are you managing the youth's agitations?
Oh, for now, we haven't had much strange issues. In fact, all the conveners are friends. Some of them I taught, some of them are relatives. So we've had it cool with them. Just that the issues that I have been discussing with them, sometimes when they meet you, media people, becomes different. But it's been cool with them. And I trust my brothers that they are even interested in the peace more than some of us. The conveners and the youth, some of them are very much interested in the peace. You heard what they told you this morning when you met them. They said, you told me that they are aware that some badness are amongst them. You told me that, right? You remember? So they know that if they don't contain the situation, some badness will take advantage, undue advantage for that matter, and misbehave. So they themselves are also protecting the security in conjunction with music.
All right, so Bernice, that is the MC for Nkranza South, Mr. Oredu, giving us details on the issue. So if you have any further questions, you can ask him now.
Yeah, Oheming, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We'll hand over to News Desk, which is coming up shortly at 10 a.m. for further discussions on this matter. But I just want to say that there's more to this, Benjamin, on myjoyonline.com. Yesterday we heard from the Nkranza South MP, who is actually related to this young man. And he gives us a totally different account. I would want to find out, Oheming, and when you come on News Desk, it will be good to get a response from the MCE. He tells us where the story ended for him. But since the agitation over the weekend, didn't he care to find out from the police what happened once the gentleman, according to them, was picked to Techiman? Because according to his uncle, he says about 3 or 4 hours later, the young man, in his words, was killed.
Per the family.
Per the family and the MP for the area. He was killed, and he says he has evidence to support that claim. He wonders why they were tossed up and down, go to Techiman.
For 3 weeks?
For 3 weeks. And
3 weeks?
Yes, and his mother was actually told to come to Accra with a letter to the police intelligence unit. And he decided to do that. And then later he was told that the young man had died. There are so many questions to it. Why did the police go to his house in an unregistered vehicle?
I mean, in terms of protocols, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Is he an alleged armed robber? The police should come clear on that, because that laptop in question that is spoken of, he had also, per some reports, also reported losing a laptop. So what is it? Was it his laptop that had been lost? Was it something that tied him to the crime?
Yeah, but the question is, why would an armed robber go to a robbery scene with a laptop in a bush? I mean, these are all questions that you want to answer.
Right.
And also, he also claims that he had witnessed a certain robbery incident involving some policemen.
A police officer.
Yes, and had divulged this information to a couple of friends, and the next day he was picked up. So there are many angles to this story.
Coincidence?
Well, we can't tell. But the question again is, why would an armed robber go to a robbery scene with a laptop? I don't know. I don't have answers. But these are all questions that, come to mind when you're digesting this issue. But we've run out of time here on the show. Today, for our Citizens Microphone, we brought you our correspondent from other parts of the country sharing with us what's happening with regards to the tariff hike. So tomorrow we'll be hearing from you, our guests. Now, Benjamin.
Well, as we wrap, of course, we know that water is life. It regulates your body temperature, keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for every occasion, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Bernice is joining me now. We also have introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251.
And do you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Well, that's the case. Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and creative arts, horticulture and medicinal plants does not need to pay income tax on these activities for the first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in businesses that enjoy this initial 5-year concession will benefit from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. Accra and Tema, 15%. Other regional capitals outside the 3 northern regions, 12.5%. Outside other regional capitals, 10%. And the 3 northern regions, 5%. For further clarity and information, please contact your nearest GRA office. GRA, fairness and integrity, fairness and service. And that's how we wrap up this edition of the AM show. It's been a real pleasure serving you.
It has been. And from us to you, do have a wonderful day. Don't you forget, News Desk is up next and we'll give you more scope on the Nkranza issue. Do have a good day.
Take care.